now. Holy shit, folks.
I always remind people, I am suspended for life for minor hockey.
It's my duty to please the booty.
Did you catch a rattlesnake and then drive home with it in your car holding it the whole time?
Yep.
Phil only drinks Coke. He doesn't drink water. I'll fucking quit.
Fugazis.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 441 of Spittin Chiclets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports podcast family. Gang, these last few days have been an incredible stretch of hockey. We've had wild shootouts, coach and head games, some absurd penalty calls and no calls, historic upsets, 3 Game 7s, and 1 giant monkey finally ripped off a team's back. But as always, we say hi to the boys first. Let's go to Keith Yandle, our special guest first. KY, how goes it, my friend?
Couple clicks for Yands stepping in. How are ya?
Grown man wearing a jersey.
We got
Same 2 jersey wears on.
Be careful. Be careful. You don't need the grumpy, Mr. Grumpy coming at you.
No, he just had his cookies. He's good. All right, I'm good. Great intro right there. Ready to roll.
All right, let's get at it. Paul, Biznett, you're up next. We'll go to you. We've got to get to this hockey soon.
I thought I would be drained, but I'm full of energy. This new blood NHL is taking over. These games have been incredible. Some dramatic upsets. I can't wait to dive into it. And of course, congratulations to the Toronto Maple Leafs on getting that monkey off the back. I mean, boys, you know what type of scrutiny these guys are under. And I could see Whit over there batting his eyes, rolling his eyes, saying, who gives a shit about the Toronto Maple Leafs? But they deserve this. The whole city deserved this. And I'm so excited that this weight vest is off. So now I think we're going to really see them flourish. You're going to really see what the Toronto Maple Leafs are made of. So I'll hand it back to you, R.A. I just had to get in that quick plug for the boys in blue.
We shall see soon. Next up, the Merman, Matt Murley over in Sweden. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great. I am done picking matchups that I want to see. I picked Boston. I picked Colorado. I picked the Rangers. I picked the Islanders. I want to see Islanders, Rangers. I'm a fool. I'm going to start picking to win money, to win bets, to win series. That's it.
The Mika burger worked for one game. Did you go back for Game 7 or no?
I didn't get down there today. I was too busy building a grill and taking care of my daughter.
You lost with the Mika burger.
Yeah, we lost the day we had it. They ended up winning 2 days later, so I didn't go today out of that, but I was a little busy today. But, they stunk. They're frauds.
All right, last but certainly not least, the Whit Dog, Ryan Whitney. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. Bunch of things to talk about. Get off my chest. All right. First to you. I mean, just the mood you're in right now. I mean, you should be sitting there trying not to cry, sounding miserable. I mean, you're coming in here with energy. You just got your dick punched in your stomach. You just got embarrassed to the highest level. You and Grinelli. So you guys, I feel bad for you a little way. Leafs fans, congratulations. Congratulations. No doubt about it. You got it done. You got outplayed, but you got it done. We have many things to talk about. Most importantly, though, the Edmonton Oilers are looking like an absolute goddamn wagon.
Like a snack.
And I'll tell you right now, Biz, you said, I'm going to have the best record with the picks coming out of the first round. You had the worst.
Yeah.
The LA Kings they're petrified. You should be scared shitless of them. We worked them over in 6. And your team won, so you're hot. You're hot. 19 years finally ended. But it's a pleasure to be here, guys. And what an insane couple weeks. It's like, it is new blood. I mean, a lot of the big markets are donezo. See ya, smell you later. But I like the new blood. I like seeing these new teams. I mean, God, was I wrong about the Devils and Pasha. Holy shit, Pasha. If you're a New York Rangers fan, you are owned by the man named Pasha. How do you say his last name? Agishi?
Lucifer. Eschke. Pasha Eschke.
Pasha Eschke is the king of Manhattan. As he calls Henrik Lundqvist, the king without a crown. He is the king of Manhattan. So
anything to cover that hairline, but he is buzzing right now. He's fucking firing off everything in the group chat. And any of you Rangers fans who doubted him, and even I did, I thought he was going to be wrong.
Oh, I was wrong on that one.
Most of his predictions came to fruition, and after 2 games, man, it seemed like his internet life had flashed before his eyes, and he was just getting bullied on that app. I thought Elon Musk was going to have to step in. That's how bad he was getting bullied by Rangers fans. But lo and behold, the same fucking Devils we saw in the regular season came in and just shut down that superstar-filled lineup. So I know we're not going to get to that first, but oh my God, this is insanity, RA.
Yeah, the new blood. I'm glad you guys said that. It is. There's no Boston, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Washington, LA, St. Louis in the final 8 here. The 2 newest franchises still alive. 2 Canadian teams still alive. The best player in the world still alive, or the best duo, you might say. And interestingly, of the 8 teams, the last Stanley Cup won by any of them was way back in 2006 with Carolina, with New Jersey 03, Dallas 99, Edmonton 90, and Toronto, I believe, was 1967. Florida, Vegas, Seattle have yet to win a cup. The road teams have been immense, 11-3 in overtime, and we're going to go right into that. Whitney already kind of said it. Florida, Boston. Matty Tkachuk called one of the biggest, I think he called the biggest upset in NHL history, if you go by playoff history, if you go by the regular season stats, okay, but the Florida Panthers, man, they came in, they got the late goal, tied it up, and we won in overtime, and they just pushed the Bruins around. They bitched them around. They outplayed them. They out-hustled them. I had some real problems with the coaching that went on. It was just a disaster from the Bruins perspective. You had 3 fucking chances to knock them out, 2 of them at home, and they didn't get it done. So, Whit, we'll go to you first. Oh, actually, no, let's go to Keith first. He's the Boston guy as well, and then we'll come back and I'll go off a crazy rant for you.
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway from this series was, and it's a huge upset, obviously, with what Boston did this year. But you look at the Panthers lineup; they're not a team that is, has guys that you don't know who they are. They got Matthew Tkachuk, Barkov, Ekblad, Montour had a monster year. Carter Verhaeghe, 40 goals. So it's not like they're going in as a team at the bottom of the cap. Like, they're at the top of the cap. They go out, spend money. Wasn't a surprise for me. I mean, I didn't think they'd beat them, but it was, they've been playing meaningful games for the last month and a half, and they showed it, and they got some absolute gamers on that team. Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Montour. You got to tip your hat to Bob too, coming in after not playing for a long time, demanding the net, getting it, and showing what he can do to elite teams, and why he's paid that money. I know people get on his back a little bit about how much money he makes, but you win a series like that against a team like that, I think he deserves some pats on the back for that. And unbelievable series. All the games were fun to watch. Florida is buzzing right now. Like,
I bet
hockey buzz around town is unbelievable. They got everyone at school stopping me, talking about the team, and it's just a great buzz down here going for them.
So, I mean, going back, of course, to that save in Game 5 where Marchand could have closed it out in the dying seconds, it ends up being a great save. You're telling me that Bobrovsky went to Maurice and demanded the net?
No, I don't know. I don't know if he did or not.
You said demanded. I was like, oh, fuck. He went into the coach's office and say, I want Game 5. The way you said it, it seemed like that. But it was nice to see that, after what Lyon had done, I feel that he'd let a few distance goals go in where, it's kind of like, hey, we got to at some point hand it off to the veteran and see what he can do. Not, I guess, a result of Lyon's play, just maybe those few gaffes gave Maurice an opportunity to give Bobrovsky that chance. And listen, I know that things got out of hand in Game 6 there, but when they needed the big stops, when Boston was actually gaining momentum and sustained pressure, he came up big. And it just seems like, I guess we'll talk about the coaching decisions. Allmark seems to have been hurt to some degree. I can't understand why they wouldn't have went to Swayman in Game 6 first, just given the way that they've rotated the net all season. And especially that was your opportunity to do so, much like there was an opportunity for Maurice to put Bob in. They could have went to Swayman after that gaff, after that, and especially with the excuse that he wasn't playing at 100%. And I feel like this organization has already dealt with that when they let Rask keep the net when he had the rotator cuff situation. So at least give Allmark the 2 days off, allow Swayman, a guy who's been able to be an incredible 1B all season long, let him try to get his feet wet, and lo and behold, what's the one game that Allmark ends up getting lit up? Well, I know what happened in Game 2, but Game 6, man, there were some stops that he could have had for sure, and he gets lit up, and everybody who hadn't showed up for Boston yet in the series showed up. I mean, Marchand didn't score that goal to close things out in 5, but he had 4 fucking apples in game 6. Bertuzzi, Hall, all these guys were contributing with.
Biz, if I were you, I mean, I would have started this thing. I guess I'll speak for you. I mean, RA said, yeah, the Leafs will be lucky to win just to get swept by the Bruins. Like, if I'm you, that's the first thing I'm saying.
I said
I'm going to
swept.
keep it classy. I don't need to.
You said
playing with the house's
I
money
remember
now.
being like, wow, you're like, yeah, just trying to get it done against Tampa only to get swept by the Bruins. And wow. It is so shocking to see how it went down, because if you really look at it, the Bruins, without lying, like letting in some complete stinkers early, the Bruins were lucky to get to Game 7. They got outplayed at least 4 of the games, if not 5. And Keith mentioned the Panthers, who I showed no respect for, have dogs. They have playoff dogs.
Hyenas. They're the hyenas.
I'm not talking about Bruins players not being like that. Like this series, they weren't. But in the past, Bergeron, Krejci, Marchand, those guys have proven they know how to play. They know how to go long in the playoffs. They weren't doing it. The Panthers were chipping every puck in, chipping every puck out. They were going to the blue paint, as Merles calls it. Throw it. What is it, Merles? Where do you throw it?
Throw it in the mixer.
The mixer, right in front of the crease. They were just, they
blender.
were playing playoff battles, making the easy play every single time. It didn't matter. They weren't. And then they have guys that are tenacious. And if I could pick a defenseman to get on my hockey team to try to win a Stanley Cup, Radko Gudas is right there. That guy is a complete belligerent on the ice. He never, at one moment, watches the puck as a defender, which is no, seriously, like, I was a puck watcher. That's
there was
why
a
I
puck
was
in that
getting
series?
walked and my guy was scoring. I was watching the puck. That dude don't look at the puck. He looks at your chest and he's going to put his shoulder right through it. And they had players like that. And Tkachuk, I mean, Jesus Christ, Biz, you tweeted it. The best American player in the National Hockey League right now.
He brings
Matthews
everything.
probably overall skill levels higher. Last year MVP. Right now, Matthew Tkachuk is a problem. And that team just completely outwilled the Bruins. And Krejci, okay, here's another thing I want to say. The worst part of this job as a former player is some of the things you have to say about guys' performances in the playoffs. I hate talking about it because I know how hard it is, and I know doing this now how easy the game is sitting on the couch and sitting in the stands. The game is slow and easy, and when the playoffs start, it's not. And some guys step up and some guys don't. Grunelli had a good point. Bergeron and Krejci are 37, turning 38 years old. That's hard, man. It's a long year, dude. You're grinding through, and all of a sudden the playoffs come, and these young legs, it's just different now. And the Bruins, Bertuzzi was a beast. Hall had a good series, but in Game 7, those guys shit the bed, man. The first 5 minutes was great, and then it just completely went downhill. I mean, they gave up chance after chance. You're like, what are they doing? My wife never watches hockey. She's sitting with me in overtime. She's like, that was the worst overtime display of hockey I've ever seen in my life.
They had 7 neutral zone turnovers. They were trying to stretch play every time. I don't understand why they just didn't adjust to gaining lines, gaining zones, and they have that cycle type team. They just need to get to the offensive zone. They tried this run and gun. Everything was off. The timing was off. It seems like there was always split-second hesitation before they would make their play, where Florida, with the hyena-type forecheck they have, were reading and on their toes in every situation. They made no adjustments there. They had 5-on-5. They looked terrible. And just to quickly go back, and you mentioned Tkachuk, I feel like Game 2 when Sam Bennett got introduced to the series, it felt like Tkachuk had his Bash brother back, and these guys were just feeding off each other. Whether it was net front scrums, getting shit started in Game 6, 19 seconds in, and hyenas on the forecheck, and it trickled down the lineup. Guys, let's think about what Tkachuk did playing, and no disregard to Sam Bennett. In Game 7, it was Sam Bennett and Nick Cousins on his line. Like 5 goals, 6 assists. When Tkachuk shows up to the rink, it's like everybody's just like, hey, boys, we're fucking putting the work boots on. Let's go, buddy. That's their emotional, spiritual leader. And it feels like since All-Star break, everybody was like, I'm following that guy. And they just they were relentless, even to the point where I didn't even think that Barkov necessarily looked dominant at the beginning of the series. but because Tkachuk and those other guys were going Montour as well, it gave him a chance to get his legs underneath him, where I felt like in the last 2 games, Barkov then became a factor. Way more so than we saw in the first 5 games, no?
Okay, maybe a little bit, but if you told me Barkov was going to play like that and they'd win the series, I'd be like, what are you smoking?
There you go.
He was, that's why, Tkachuk. Montour, holy shit, what a story.
Wow.
So apparently in November, Maurice went to him and he's like, hey, the reins are off. Just go. Or maybe even a little, he's like, just go. He realized how good he was. He saw what he had. And this guy is a freak. Dude, he was playing forward for the Buffalo Sabres. They traded him for a 3rd-round pick. I mean, granted, he was unrestricted. They had him playing forward. It's just like amazing. Different chances, different cities, different opportunities. And what a fuck. He had 5 goals. Like, you tie it up late. And on the Bruins end, I couldn't believe the season Lindholm had. Like, what a player. It was just Norris Trophy caliber defense. My buddy Beef said it was like the movie Sudden Death, and somebody else was in his gear, like when Jean-Claude Van Damme's playing the Penguins goalie. He couldn't. Every time he got the puck, he was falling over, and then he would just throw it away. Now, guys could be injured and stuff's coming out. It came out. Kevin Weeks said the story. Allmark was battling a debilitating injury, and they don't play Swayman game 5. Like, it was a masterclass of domination in every single aspect of the game. In the series. I mean, why did Monty keep switching the lines, RA?
That's the thing. That's the other thing I had written down. It feels like he kept putting the lines in a blender. To his defense, as guys kept coming back in, obviously the lines are going to change and you have to reestablish chemistry. But I want to say it was in game 6, the first 7-8 minutes, he'd already changed, or he changed the lines, and then finally he put Bergeron and Marchand back together, where it's just like you can't keep shuffling lines. It wasn't really like that all season long. And I also wrote down Sweeney. Like, I feel like you mentioned the fact that he was lucky to even get the 7. Like, if Bertuzzi and Orlov don't play the way that they played, they were their 2 best players on top of maybe Hall in those first 4 games. It didn't look like the Boston team that we saw all season. And it just seems like they're all of the shit just kind of hit the fan at the worst possible time.
Hey,
from
Keith,
their
I got
side.
a question for you about the Panthers. But before I ask you, Biz, you just mentioned they didn't look like the Bruins. Verhaeghe, after that goal, which was a snipe, by the way, and so was Reinhardt's in Game 7. He said, it doesn't mean anything. Like, look at what we did last year. We crushed everyone and we got worked over. Like, the President's Trophy and the NHL regular season, it really does not matter. It's proven more and more every single year. 10 years now in a row, the President's Cup winners haven't won the Cup. Only one of them's gone to the conference finals, and it was the Rangers in 2015. So at this point, you have to look at the Panthers playing live or die, like playoff games for a month, and then you're rolling in. It's like you can't compare that to the Bruins. They're trying to break a record, but they were already doing that. They were already in the mix. But Keith, for you mentioned Bennett, and you told me at one point in the series when he came in, you're like, he's going to either score a big goal, have big assists, or he'll get suspended. Like, he's always doing something, huh?
Rafi Torres 2.0, take somebody's head off.
He's an absolute warrior on the ice. Love playing with him. Unbelievable guy off the ice.
Yeah.
And just when that, especially playoff time, when that switch, it was against Tampa for us. He ran somebody from behind. We were up in the series. We ended up losing. Not that it was his fault at all. I'm not saying that, but he is just one of those guys. When he sees red, it doesn't come back to normal. He's just go, but has a motor on him, like we were talking about with Matthew Tkachuk. He brings his teammates into the fight. Just a guy you want on your team, especially in playoff time. But going back to Whit, what do you think? There's got to be a lot of pressure on those guys too, especially in a big market like Boston. You come in, you're playing a team that barely gets into the playoffs. It's up to their last game. They're playing with zero pressure, and the fact that they play in Florida as well, they don't have as much pressure. Like, I feel like the pressure of teams nowadays is getting to players, getting to teams, and I don't know if it's media or whatever it is, but it just seems like the pressure is just more and more every year for good teams.
I agree. Yeah, and for good teams, let alone teams who broke every record in the book, and you're just gripping the stick. And you guys brought up Bobrovsky. Like, is it crazy to say that that series win like basically makes the contract worth it. It's obviously like a ridiculous argument. It's an 8-year deal of $10 million a year, but he just beat the best regular season team of all time, and who knows what else he's going to do. And he was a part of the other greatest upset in NHL history in 2019. So that guy just picks it up when it matters.
And let me ask you this, Keith. I feel like since Montour's picked it up offensively, it's maybe allowed Ekblad to focus less on that and be able to just kind of round out his game a little bit better, where I felt that he was very physical and just focused on really closing guys down and forcing them to make plays in tight areas, getting them closed off against the wall. And then just overall, from the beginning of the season, Florida's defensive zone, I feel like they really cut the ice in half, and they really pressure the puck and then really close things down and shut down plays. I didn't see the same dominance of sustained pressure from Boston as we did in the regular season, where they turned guys shift over shift, where I felt like they had a hard time really setting things up. I mean, even like going back to later in the series where Boston relied so much on their power play, and even there in Game 7 where it was 2 power play goals that really kept them in it.
Yeah, I will say this, and you got to give Mark Stahl a lot of credit because he's played with Montour a lot of the year this year, and just having a steady veteran guy like Stalzy who's seen it all. He's played with a ton of good players. He's been huge for him, I can imagine. But I think the Panthers do a great job with their pairings. Like I said, having Montour with Stahl, having Eki with Forsling, having Gudas with Mahara. It's like you have one stay-at-home guy and one offensive guy. So I think they do a great job with that. Back to Eki. Eki's one of those guys, he's really gifted offensively. He's got all the skill in the world. But he's also one of those guys that takes a lot of pride in like shutting down teams, big lines, being that number one shutdown guy. I think like he's a guy, he'd rather shut down a team's best line for the game than go out and score a goal. You know what I mean? So I think he's probably playing a little bit, like you said, better defensively because he doesn't have to worry about the offense as much with Monty playing as good as he did.
I looked at it like when you were the offensive defenseman for the Coyotes, where when Oliver Ekman-Larsson came in, he didn't have to worry about being that first unit power play guy, where he could just kind of focus more on shutting guys down and worrying about the defensive side of the puck. So I just feel like it really, like it's like Adam Fox in New York as well, where that takes the pressure off. It did off Trouba for sure, the way that he was producing points in Winnipeg, but even Keandre Miller, for instance. So having that guy who can be that power play specialist that you can just worry about the all-around game, I felt played a huge factor into Ekblad being able to also play that shutdown role.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And he was banged up this series too. He missed, what do you miss, a game or two? At least one.
I'm not sure.
Same with, I heard Gudas is banged up too, and so these guys
look like it.
Yeah.
Gudas is that guy. His body would be like a car wreck after every game. I think he's made a steal. Knock on wood. Like this guy will play through anything. Complete warrior, gives it 110% even in a game in November. You know what I mean? So he doesn't change for anything, and just the guy you don't want to get caught in his tracks, because when he gets that stick on the ice and he's just going forward at a guy, it's lights out usually.
Hey, Biz, do you remember, or did you play when we went as the Clown Jesters to Blues camp? Did you go play the game in Orlando against the Lightning, the preseason
I did not,
game?
No.
So yeah, I got sent on that one. And Gudas was on Tampa Bay. I knew nothing about him. I'd never even heard of him. And he truck sticked Tarasenko. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? I go, it's never changed. Just a true playoff beast. But I don't know what else we're forgetting. I mean,
I was just going to throw it to one thing I did have noted down was like, are we going to see the confidence build in Bobrovsky where we get Vezina Bobrovsky? Because, I don't know how much playing under his value fucks with his head. He is in Florida, so maybe he's not seeing as much of the noise as he would in a big market. But then obviously to throw it back to RA, we talk about the pressure of Boston in that entire market. Do you feel that maybe that impacted some decisions being made by the head coach, and also some odd quotes, and we'll dive deeper into it by Monty.
That was not good.
But I just want to know if maybe reporters were being persistent about the goaltending situation, and then which he said, if you want more of a detailed answer, go and ask the goalie coach. Which, yeah, the soundbite sounds like he's throwing him under the bus. But if he's been asked 5 or 6 times in the presser, he might say, hey, listen, I've told you what my answer is. If you want a more detailed answer, go talk to him. I don't know the context of it, RA, but you're the Boston OG. You're the godfather of the podcast. How hard does this hit you?
I mean, I left the arena. I wasn't crying my eyes out. I say it before. I'm an old fuck. I mean, you get life experiences. It doesn't affect you as much. I mean, they didn't deserve it, man. I watched the whole thing. Florida played them, outmuscled them. They beat them to every puck. They outplayed them pretty much every game. First off, full props to Florida, man. Matty Tkachuk, I know obviously we're fans of his. And, our families are friends, whatever, but he's fucking immense, man. 11.7 games. Drags him into the playoffs. He set that unbelievable screen on the game winner, too. Swayman had no look at it whatsoever. You mentioned Montour, the two Sams, Bennett and Reinhart. They killed the Bruins all series as well. But for the whole series, the Panthers just flat out hungrier, grittier, and to get to Monty Biz, I mean, he's probably going to win the Jack Adams, but what was he thinking a lot of these times? The constant line juggling, he didn't do that all year. Then to break up Bergeron and Marchand, that's like splitting up fucking Batman and Robin. The constant lineup changes, that, kills any consistency. Guys don't know if they're in or out. And the team, I thought a couple of times they weren't ready to play playoff hockey at the beginning of the game. Now, I don't know how much of that is on the coach or the individual players or whatever, but, Florida was taking it to them right from the jump. And then, of course, the goaltending. Most curiously, they abandoned this rotation they had all year. Now, Ullmark didn't play more than 4 games in a row the whole season. And then they play him 6 fucking games in a row. But wait, there's more. Kevin Weekham's out today. Like you said, he was playing through a debilitating and painful injury that limited his mobility and technique. Well, what the fuck is he playing 6 games in a row for?
Why wouldn't he step up and maybe he step up and say, listen, I'm not 100%. Swayman's been helping me out all year with the 1-2 punch. I get that guys are stubborn about it, but why not step up as yourself? If you're a forward and maybe dealing with a slight groin pull, yeah, you can go play 4th line, 3rd line, and you can get limited minutes and still to contribute to some regard. But your goaltender, the most important position against a high-flying offense like Florida?
They knew he was hurt. He was hurt at the end of the season. The last week of the season, he missed a few games, right, R.A.?
Yeah, I mean, but you players are wired that way. You always want to play. I don't think guys are going to beg out too much, but that's what a fucking coach is for, to say, no, you can't play. I mean, go back to game 82 with Bergeron. I mean, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but, he maybe should have said, I know there was an emotional element to that, but the other coach, man, you got to tell these guys they're not going to play. And then you wait to game 7 to throw Swayman, and the guy hasn't started a game since fucking April 13th. I thought he played well. The first goal, it was a dud, but he made the 2 huge saves in overtime before the game winner. It was just it was the opposite of what we watched all year, Biz. It was just, it was awful to watch. And as far as the goaltending thing, it reminded me of Cassidy, sticking with Rask when everybody knew he was hurt instead of putting Ullmark in last year. It's like, what are you fucking doing? It's like they're getting emotionally attached, or they're not being coaches. They're letting their emotions get involved with something. And then the quote, I got it right here. We thought Swayman, was going to give us the best chance tonight. You'd have to ask goalie Bob a little more in detail about that. Now, whatever he was asked the first time, the 8th time, the 10th time, it's still kind of throwing a guy under the bus a little. I mean, you're the coach, dude. It's your final decision. So I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. A lot of times, it just puts a huge, it's not even a damper. It ruins the season. I mean, the record means nothing. First round, they're out. People are going to think of this year, the Bruins, and they're going to just fucking
laugh.
Make a big fucking raspberry. Laugh. Yeah, or cry.
Other fans, fan bases are laughing.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Still got to give you credit for what they did during the year. It was amazing, but obviously it hurts, and those guys are feeling it more than anyone, but what they did during the regular season was insane.
And to be honest, guys, I was hoping for a better ending, at least a conference final visit, because of it looked like it's going to be Bergeron's last year, and that was an emotional exit, leaving the ice, embraced each teammate for a lengthy period of time. The tears just felt like maybe this is it, and I guess that's why I didn't want to come in swinging on RA Whit, is because I just feel like there was just. That's what we do up in Canada, buddy. But it's just such a shitty ending for a guy who put his heart and soul into a franchise where I feel you look at these players who made monumental impacts, and I feel like everybody at least got their 2 cups. You look at Anze Kopitar in LA, like a guy like that, they got their 2 cups with that core group. It's just going to be, I feel like, given the amount of runs they've had. What?
Getty only got 1. I feel like they're kind of similar.
Yeah. I mean, he never wanted to get moved.
But the thing
later
is, Bergeron went to he went to 3 finals, and then this year so yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's just I feel like based on the body of work, only coming out with 1 cup just seems like a major letdown, especially with the way it was set up for this year. And it had that last dance feel to it, where it just felt like it was going to be a special season, or at least a trip to the final, where, oh my God, to fizzle out the way they did. And as you guys keep mentioning, all the credit goes to Florida peaking at the right time. And I don't really have much else than that. It sucks if that's it for Bergeron. I would imagine first ballot Hall of Fame. I would imagine jersey in the rafters. Merles, does he get a statue?
Witt's in charge of the statue. He doesn't give them to anybody,
okay.
you know. I don't think that's
for city council, Witt. Does he get the statue?
Bergeron? I don't know, man. I'm not my statue. I think there should be like 10 statues in pro sports. I don't know what you want me to say.
I'm the same.
I'll give you a
you're
list
the statue
of
guy.
we've done this before. It's like Brady, Gretzky, Jordan. Like I'm not a handout the statue trophy guy.
Merles, was there anything you wanted to follow up with to put a final note on that series?
Nah, you guys talked about it. The will, they out-willed them. In overtime, I'm sitting here watching that game. I knew there was no question that Matthew Tkachuk was not going to come out of that with that puck from behind the net. I just knew it. He was going to out-will them. And then the puck comes out to Verhaeghe. I don't know what Grzelcyk was doing, but do you think Radek Gudas would have approached that shot like that? No, he would have thrown his face in front of it and blocked it. That's the playoff will. They had none. They gave in to the pressure. Every sports center and thing was asking, what if you lose? What if you lose? What if you don't win the cup? Is it a letdown? They've heard that for months now, and it showed up in those last few games and last few periods. They couldn't even make a pass.
And before we move on, last thing, I mean, Matthew Tkachuk, right now, MVP of that series, but maybe the true MVP of the Tkachuk family was Big Walt when he completely ridiculed the Florida Panthers on radio in Canada. And since then, it was, boom, it was a light switch. So,
ironically, it was before they ended up playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that was the game where Paul Maurice snapped, took his glasses off, and said, you guys are playing like a bunch of pussies. So in the course of 48 hours, not only did Big Walt, but Maurice finally using that you can't use that card too much. Paul Maurice seems like a player's coach, but the one time he picked a snap this season, it really turned things around, and here we are.
Merles, to your point, I thought that last goal was like a perfect metaphor for the series. Just the Bruins kind of being lazy and Florida just outworking them to get that goal. And Biz, I might pull a little bit of a muscle here, but do you remember what I said, though, my one concern was going into this series? That I didn't know that he was hurt, but I don't know if you remember what. Do you remember what I said?
Goaltending. And Borelli's, you said goaltending.
Specifically, Olmaki, 0 playoff wins, 2 starts. And, until you prove it in the playoffs, you're unproven in the playoffs. And, again, I didn't know he was hurt, but it ended up coming. And believe me, I'm not happy I was fucking right about it, but it ended up fucking showing its true face. What do you got,
G? You also said to pull him a lot earlier than they did.
I think you were saying that after game 2.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was.
I did, but
Before we continue, guys, I'm here to talk to you about Pink Whitney. And no matter where you are, Sweden, where Merles is, where the sun's already up, or Boston, where the weather's finally turned, nothing beats being outside, being on the golf course, being at the beach. That's coming soon. Sipping on some Pink Whitney. Watching a playoff game, pouring a nice cold Pink Whitney over ice, maybe throwing a little soda water in there. That's what it's all about come springtime. I was just playing golf the past 2 days. We had Pink Whitney flowing. We had the nips going for the birdies. That's what it's all about. The birdie juice, Pink Whitney. And we appreciate you guys drinking it and enjoying it just like we do here on this podcast. So shout out to Pink Whitney and go get some today.
C'est la vie. It's over. It's done. And we'll move on. And Paul, you can probably take your pants off right now and get ready because Tampa Bay versus Toronto. Yo, Adrian, they did it. After losing 8 straight series and getting bounced in the first round for the last 6 seasons, the Toronto Maple Leafs won their first closeout game in 12 tries, beating Tampa 2-1 in a great Game 6 OT thriller. Tavares got his 4th goal of the playoffs, appropriately, 4:36 in the overtime. First series they won in 18 years. They knocked off a Lightning team, and man, that team fought till the friggin' end. I mean, Tampa's been, running ragged the last few years. Obviously, 3 times to the cup, 2 wins. You got to tip their cap before you get to Toronto, Biz. Like, just, they don't quit that friggin' team. They were in it all fucking series, all game until the end.
Just like I did on national TV, I went right to Coop and the Tampa Bay Lightning to give them praise. The run they've been on, not only Coop, but management, the trades they've made to revamp the lineup. I mean, you go back to the Coleman one I thought the Hagel trade was excellent, although they didn't end up winning a cup with him. They just made so many good moves to keep this team relevant. That core, I mean, I know Cooch didn't really look like himself this series, man, but the amount of playoff hockey all of those guys have played and the sacrifices they've made, laying their bodies on the line to go to the finals in 3 straight seasons. So really them. Obviously Vazzy looked like a human being, and he looked somewhat normal for most of that series up until at least game 6, where he really stood on his head, gave him a chance to win in game 7 too. So I really thought from an overall standpoint, Tampa Bay deserved to win this series. I think that they outplayed Toronto. I think that they exposed Toronto in a lot of areas. Example, the forecheck. I feel like Toronto had a very difficult time breaking out. I feel like they did a really good job in their own end even. The only real problem they had was maybe getting in lanes and blocking point shots, which those far shots seem to be getting past Vazzy. And if Vazzy plays to Vazzy standards, I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning take this in 6. And then I even go back, and I believe it was game 3. Tampa Bay was up 3-2, and Braden Point scores that goal where the puck is loose in between Samsonov's 5-hole. And that was such a pivotal moment in the series where they were able to get that tying goal by Ryan O'Reilly off of the Nylander pass, and then sure as shit they go into overtime, and it seemed like they were just very opportunistic Toronto at the right times all series long. You go back to the tying goal in game 4, and you go back to the winner in game 3. Riley ends up getting both of them. They're just those greasy point shots off of face-offs, one in the offensive zone, and even the game they were down 4-1 in the 3rd period. Just the big boys for Toronto, obviously led by O'Reilly, but think about Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander and the amount of scrutiny they face year over year, being called losers, never showing up. You're not built for playoff hockey. Well, I tell you what, maybe at some points they didn't look as dominant as they did in the regular season, but they showed up when they mattered. And I would say that the Marner and specifically Nylander's skill really came through. I thought that Matthews, from an overall defensive perspective, I want to say he led the entire series in block shots, in which before he got injured in the regular season, like everybody wants to talk about Matthews' sniping ability. Before he got injured this season where he got pulled out of the lineup, he was leading all forwards in block shots. We're talking about the reigning MVP and the reigning Rocket Richard winner here. Like, how often do you see a guy who impacts his team on the score sheet who's willing to sacrifice his body like that? So just how Austin Matthews has evolved into becoming such a complete player, I think really shined through this series. And I think in some cases he had to really elevate the team on his own in certain situations, and he did. And I know JT, although has lost a step and doesn't look as fast as he once was, I thought that he really made the intangible plays. He really stepped up in times where he needed to win a face-off. He needed to win a battle. Was he dominant? No. But he came through when he needed to, along with the rest of those core guys. And the last guy I had written down was Morgan Riley. Like, he's been there the longest. I don't think that people truly understand the pressure that it is to play in Toronto. And I think that the biggest, and I've said enough about Riley and the way that he was scrutinized during the regular season, to some cases where media was saying, oh, maybe he's the guy we should move because he wasn't as offensive as he was in years past. Well, he showed up offensively in a huge way when this team needed it. And just to go to the shot of the Matthews family and probably an understanding of how much pressure is on these guys, maybe Matthews can remain calm, cool, and collected in the post-game interviews, but to get that monkey off their back, to take this weight off their shoulders, I think it's going to be a huge step, because now I feel like they can just go play hockey and not constantly worry about what you guys just talked about with the Bruins, answering these questions about, hey, why has it been 19 years? Why can't you guys get over the hump? Why do you keep blowing these 3-1 series lead? Why aren't you guys built for playoff hockey? So just an incredible job in staying resilient and getting past this. And Whit, you fucking tweeted a bunch about it. I'll throw it over to you. Samsonov, they finally got the goaltending they needed.
I didn't think you were going to mention him, and I was going to be all over you.
I needed to save some for you, buddy.
Yeah, I got plenty. That was how it was going to have to happen, the way that series went down. Like, it was never going to be easy. Every Maple Leafs fan knew that, and I said it at the beginning, congrats, Maple Leafs fans. I love giving it to you, but all of my ammunition, or a lot of it, because you still haven't won the Cup since 67, but a lot of the ammunition's now gone. You got out. And I am very happy for a fan base that, while being completely psychotic, are loyal-ass lunatics. Samsonov was the best player for the Maple Leafs by a mile. And Game 6 is when it really showed. And I said to Merles, I'm like, Merles, if they start getting chances on them and they don't score, like, that's when you know Toronto's going to win. I knew Toronto was going to win. I put $5,000 on them. I woke up, I go, it's their time. It's their time. And then I knew Tampa would bring it, but I didn't think that was Tampa's best game of the series. And you said it, Tampa outplayed them. They really did. But that's how the Maple Leafs were going to win a first-round series. They were actually going to get dominated, and they were going to get stand-up, outstanding goaltending, exact opposite from everything else that they've ever dealt with. They never can get the save, dude. They never get the clutch goal. They never get the tying goal late. They never get the big save. They never get the OT winner, and it all changed while getting dominated. So Tampa Bay, you talk about a championship team and guys who will do anything to win. Like, they were not going down without the biggest battle of their lives, and they ran into a goalie who stole a series flat out. And I was super happy for John Tavares because, that guy, like, he basically ended a similar type streak for the Islanders advancing in the playoffs. And then he leaves the Islanders and he becomes public enemy number one there. And people make fun of the picture. I don't know. Maybe as a little kid who dreamed of playing in the NHL, I never had NHL teams' bed sheets, but he tweeted out the picture. Not every day you can make a childhood dream come true when he signed with them. And he's been dealing with the same bullshit that 19 years since he's been there, and he's the captain. And he gets the winner, man. And granted, it went off Radish's right foot and left foot and then in the net, but it was Tavares, the guy, skating through center ice with everyone running after him. And it was just something that I really didn't ever think would happen. I was like, I don't know if these guys are ever going to win. But Matthews, right after the game, he said, I'm going to mess up the quote. It's something like, it's actually like a mental release. Like, it was a hindrance. How are you not supposed to think about it? It's impossible. And you say the pressure, you're in an absolute pressure cooker environment and you can't win big games. And you got this core that's making all this money, and they finally did it. And I think I'm on record as saying if they ever got out of the first round, they'll probably go win the Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, Edmonton's playing in the same playoffs, so that's not going to happen. But they are going to be loose and free and flying. I actually was all about 99% picking them, and we'll get to the picks later. But after our discussion on Florida, now I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, there's people thinking Florida going to run them out of the building.
I want to go to either Merles or Keith here about Keith's adjustments. From a defensive perspective, I thought Hall really struggled that series. A lot of slow breakout passes, not gapping up properly. You go back to the lunge on that goal. That was 25 seconds after they'd gotten that opening goal in the first period. I want to say that was of Game 5, where there was just no need to lunge. And then in Game 6, we talk about waiting to Game 7 to make adjustments, where he did a good job of taking Hall out. Gustafsson went in. Liljegren went in. I wrote down not being slow to give Nyes his rope. I felt like as soon as he noticed that Nyes had his legs and he was this fucking young stallion, he didn't limit his ice time. He just fucking kept hammering it down, where I felt that Nyes, from a forecheck perspective, from a one battle perspective, he was one of their best overall players, and he really had an impact. And then, of course, putting back in Bunting after he sat him out for Game 5. So I just felt that Keith, although he loves Hall, did the right thing in taking him out. And then they also had Liljegren, who I thought made some offensive plays. I thought he joined in well when he had to, and just overall loved the adjustments by Keith.
I'll take Nyes. I love they put him in. I was calling for him to go in. The guy's Hobie Baker candidate. The college players are the best players now. If you look at the last drafts and everything, the major junior guys are just not coming up as the good players. It's all about the college guys. These guys are ready to go in. They've only played 30 games all year, so they're fresh. So I love inserting him into the lineup, and I'll pass it over to Keith to cover the D side of it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that Knives too. And I think what helps him is they're not relying on him to come in and score goals and be a guy that's going to win them games. They got those guys with Matthews, Marner. So he's built to be a guy that can get on the forecheck, disrupt plays in the offensive zone, make plays getting out of his zone. So I think he fits perfect for that third, fourth line role, especially playing with a guy like O'Reilly and Achari, who I saw him with a little bit. So it's like you have two veteran guys that know what they're doing. They're playoff guys. You definitely got to tip your cap to Keith for making the adjustments that, like RA said, are tough. They're tough adjustments to make during the season. You don't want to go away from the guys that got you to where you are, but they're hard decisions, and looking back, it really helped them out. But one thing I want to touch on Tampa with is I'd love to know the details of why they traded Ryan McDonagh. Like I think they missed him so much. Playoffs. They obviously it's never going to come out, but it's like that guy is an absolute workhorse. He's blocks
Brutus, but better.
Yeah, and the big thing is he gets the puck out of his zone better than 90% of the defensemen in the league, and he gets it to those guys like Point, Stamkos, Kucherov. So I think they really missed him this year.
This might be crazy, Keith, but I felt like in tight situations late in games when McDonagh was there, he would be on the ice sometimes instead of Hedman.
Oh yeah,
he was that guy that they relied on in that pressure situation because of his like percentages as far as making the right play and getting it out of danger. And right next to McDonagh, Whit, I have Cernak written down, where I felt like from a box out and block shots perspective, especially early in the series, that's where they missed those two guys. I felt they cleaned it up better as the series wore on, but those were where the battles were won by Toronto earlier in the series to get those chintzy wins. Another thing I had written down was that high stick no call on Hagel going into overtime. That was another call that Toronto avoided. So you look to the no goal that would have made it 4-2 on had that point scored, and then to that call going into overtime with fresh ice. And then in all the years past where they went to the finals, I feel like the deadline moves that they'd done had really helped them. Hagel, maybe not so much in the first round last year, but once he got used to the team, I felt his impact come more and more as the games went on, where given the load that they gave up for Jeannot, I just didn't see that impact. Now, that's not saying that it won't come in the future.
He was hurt too.
He was banged up. It just didn't have that immediate impact, whereas you wonder if they go give a boatload for somebody else, who could they have gotten in return to help them get over this hump? That one more factoring player, where maybe Kucherov was a little fatigued, where if he didn't have the impact he had. Well, for Toronto on the opposite side of it, the new additions that Dubas had provided, they're the ones who elevated the team in those vulnerable times. Like O'Reilly helped them in that vulnerable time when they needed that tying goal, when they needed that face-off, when they needed that big save. It was Samsonov, the addition in the summertime, and moving away from Jack Campbell to say, between him and Murray, these are my guys. So every addition that he had made had really contributed, whereas Tampa's just didn't for the first time. So I thought that was a huge impact for them, especially when Toronto was vulnerable.
Now, if Toronto goes and gets whacked in the second round, like that puts a complete stink on this, right? Or are you guys just going to play no, we got out of the first round, we're good now?
So Tampa played them so smart, exactly how they needed to win. You would imagine that with the forecheck, the way Tampa did it, giving Toronto problems, if they come with the same forecheck we saw against the Bees, Toronto better be fucking ready and better be working on that every day leading up, snapping those breakouts and figuring it out and getting on the same page. Whether at the start it's just hard rim and then win the battle up top and play chippy, greasy hockey. And if you want to try to activate the net front and start making plays and refuse to make adjustments and stay stubborn in the way they were trying to do it against Tampa, I don't think that they have a fighting chance. The reason why I do like them against Tampa, if they figure that out, and the forecheck, is also I feel like Florida's going to be willing to open it up a little bit more, where Tampa didn't do that as much as Toronto would have liked. Toronto loves playing that up and down game, especially when they have those first two lines on the ice. And then they have the other lines who can shut down big lines. But they like that. They like that north-south hockey. They want to get moving. They want to stretch the ice. They want to do the cross and drop. They want to play that fucking run and gun game. So if Florida opens it up and wants to try to compete with them there, I like Toronto's chances. If they're going to lock it down like Tampa did, Toronto better fucking look out.
And we got to give our picks later, but we just saw the Panthers completely bully the Bruins.
I get it.
And there's not much difference up front in terms of toughness for the Maple Leafs. So that's
okay. So I know we're going to get to the breakdown later. That's why I believe that the moves that Dubas made, even more so with McCabe, Luke Schenn, he ain't scared of no one. He'll fight Janot. They need those guys for when they're trying to start those skirmishes. I think that Luke Schenn's going to be an X factor in this series coming up.
Okay.
I think I already knew you were going to come at me with that, and I know. But they built themselves that way because Tampa could play that style, and even more so with Florida. But that's why they beefed up on the back end. And remind you, they have Liljegren as a backup if he ends up getting taken out. Hall, I would imagine, stays out, but they still got that Gustafsson if they go to 6D and they can have Liljegren out. That's a big fucking decor if Liljegren's out and Gustafsson's in instead of Hall. You got Brody, you got McCabe.
All right. Go ahead to the next series.
All right. Sorry. I'm getting excited. Sorry.
A couple other notes. Yandle, I think it was McDonough. I think that was just a cap casualty. That was the only thing. I don't think there was any real mystery or scandal behind that. The Leafs were the first team in NHL history to win 3 OT games as a road team in a single series. And Matt Nyes, he was on the ice for all 3 overtime winners. Pretty interesting quirk. And Samsonov, not a bad little signing, eh, Biz, free agent-wise?
RA, that was another one. You're on fire this pod, not only with your intro,
he's
but
on fire besides his favorite team blowing the biggest lead, point differential choke of the history of the league. But yeah.
I want to go back to Coop. So classy. He spent like 30 seconds a minute with each player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, obviously probably gave him props, say keep going. I just feel like the way that he handles himself in the media and the way he's able to motivate his team, that was a modern day dynasty. I think that they'll be back. Just all the credit in the world goes to him, what he's been able to do to turn things around in Tampa and handle himself with class on the way out. And I believe you had a missed call from him the other night, didn't you, RA?
Yeah, I got right back to him. It wasn't exactly a condolence call like it was from my parents calling me after the game, but
it was pretty dial.
No, he called. I missed it. I called him back. We chatted for a few minutes. Had some laughs. Actually, when I was in the box with Jake Tebow, so I threw him on the phone. He got to talk to Coop for a few minutes. So pretty awesome. Nice to have those guys share that. So yeah, boys, we can move along. Seattle, Colorado. Talk about another upset. I mean, history in Denver Sunday night. The Kraken became the first NHL team to win its first ever playoff series against the defending champions. They beat the Avalanche 2-1 in Game 7. Oliver Bjorkstrand got a pair of goals. That's all they need. Mikko Rantanen got one for Colorado. Wasn't quite enough. But you know what? Despite the series odds, I don't think we can really say Colorado choked here. Given the injury situation they had over 450 man games, lost to injury. No Gabriel Landeskog. It was just a tough ride for them. They turned it on late. But let's go to you, Merles, first on this one. What was your take on the series overall, especially in Colorado?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I had to put the Avs 29 jersey away in the closet for the rest of the year. But, yeah, I mean, the Nichushkin, they lost Nichushkin during the series. That was the major problem because he was their secondary scoring. All the scoring came from McKinnon and Rantanen, basically, and Makar missing the 1-game suspension was huge. They just aren't the Stanley Cup team that they were last year. No Kadri, no Landeskog, no Nichushkin. I think Manson missed all the series, or most of the series, so they just weren't the same team that we followed along last year to the Cup. And Seattle's a different kind of team. They just play they basically have 4 maybe second lines, I would call it, and they just keep rolling at you. They got a couple big D men. They got the right coach in there. That coach is pretty demanding. He's an old college coach, so all those cast-offs are ready to play for him. And I got to give a shout out to the assistant coach, Jay Leach. He's an up-and-coming coach. He was in the Bruins organization for a while. I saw him drawing up the plays at the end of the game. So shout out to Seattle, and it's a nice little team they got.
Merles, you fucking said at the depth compared to no depth. 16 goals from the top 6 for the Colorado Avalanche. Guess how many for the bottom 6, Whit?
The bagel.
0 fucking goals from the bottom 6. 0.
Wow.
7 goals for Rantanen, 4 for Mac. Just no supporting cast, where you look at the other side and the team that not a lot of people gave a chance to, the team that's probably getting the least amount of respect coming into these playoffs. 15 separate goal scorers. Not one player on the team had more than 2 goals. And that just speaks volume to the fact that they have so many guys up and down that lineup where, yeah, they don't really have a first line compared to most of these teams that are in the league. But you said it, Merles, they have 4 second lines, no egos, next man up mentality. They lose McCann, their 40-goal man. Just send a rookie and he ends up contributing a goal. It's that next man up. And I think we can all agree probably the star of the team through the first 7 games of these playoffs has been Grubauer. And I thought Hank did an unreal job breaking down why he's been so good, standing up, not just fucking going down like we saw in that goal that Swayman let in. Like they use this reverse V8, they call it. That's what Hank was calling in the demo, where most of these guys are down. It felt like he just was making every big save that they needed, scaving off the big 3. And I agree with you, Merles. This wasn't a shit the bed type moment. This was not having any other secondary scoring, and Makar, McKinnon, and Rantanen putting on a fucking show. And I think the dog proved a lot in this series.
Yeah, the dog is a sicko. I took them live like plus 375 when they were down 2-0. Boom, they get 1. He ties it up. I don't know what Arturi Lekkonen's doing. He was offsides by a foot. Adam Oates was sitting at home smashing a hammer off the wall. I don't know how the hell you go that offsides. So that was upsetting. But I don't think I've ever been more wrong about a hockey team in my life. And this is coming from a guy whose voice was used the first year of the Vegas Golden Knights over the loudspeaker before games, saying they were going to be the doormat of the entire NHL as they walked into the Stanley Cup final. But I have shown this team little to no respect. I called out Haxtell as like a sacrificial lamb, as the kind of coach you have the first years and you let go. This guy's been unreal. And they play nonstop hockey that never, ever is intense and quick. And Kevin Hayes told me the other day, I was talking to him, he said in his 8 or 9 years, or however long he's been in the NHL, the games in Seattle have been the hardest games he's played it. He's like, they don't stop coming. And all night long, they're chipping it in, playoff-style hockey, Brandon Tanev-style hockey, right? They got all these guys. You said nobody had more than 2 goals. Bjorkstrand could have had 11 goals in Game 7. He hit the post 6 times, I think.
Yeah.
Every time he got the puck, he's twisted wrist or ding, ding.
Yeah.
And Grubauer started jumping for joy right when the buzzer went off. Like, man, they didn't want you there, right?
They wouldn't come to his term and to his money. He wanted 6 years.
They didn't want him there. Same thing.
Yeah,
and you know what? He went in there and he beat him. And I do have to mention this. Feel just sick to my stomach for Andrew Cogliano. And I don't know who, Biz, I don't know if it was you or Anson Carter. Like, I heard I actually don't know. Somebody said that shouldn't have been a suspension. Biz, that was the definition of how you say they go about if you're injured, but Cogliano came back and played in the game, right?
Yeah, that was what I was talking about.
The guy came back with a broken neck.
Right.
And they didn't suspend Everly, who's not a dirty player, but it was a dirty fucking hit.
But neither is Makar, and his hit ended up hurting McCann, so I figured that he would be getting the same treatment. And that's a big piece for Seattle. He's on their top line. Right? And like you said, he's not a dirty player, but it's like, well, the way that it was called earlier in the series, and to lose Makar in Game 5 as an impactful player as he is, they lost Game 5. So it's such a I guess a weird call where the standard had seemed to have been set, where now all of a sudden, and people might say, well, Cogliano is a little bit different than the leading goal scorer, but he's an emotional leader in that locker room. You look back to the run last year, and when the guys were asked about who were the guys to step up and really calm the nerves in the locker room, it was Cogliano. Well, they found themselves in a very stressful Game 7. They could have used his body and his wheels. And going back to Seattle, incredible starts. They scored the first goal in every single game of the series. So they were always playing with the lead.
They weren't chasing the game. The Bruins were chasing the game.
They were chasing the game. So was Colorado, right?
Yep.
And so they had to overextend themselves. I want to say the amount of odd man rushes that Colorado gave up compared to Seattle must have been at least 2-1 throughout the entire series, if not more, right? They just stay in structure. And on top of that, in 3 games, they had 2 or less penalties. And then the one game they won, they had 3, which if you could stay out of the box against Colorado, you're going to give yourself a fighting chance. As we saw in the opposite situation with LA putting fucking Edmonton on the power play. So they're just such a disciplined team throughout the not taking penalties, through their structure, through getting off to good starts, to never taking a shift off because they have these second lines they can keep rolling over and over. So just an incredible series from the Seattle Kraken. And from that city perspective, if they were to get swept in this round, they'd still be thrilled with the way the season turned out. They have 0 pressure going into this round against Dallas. 0.
Like Merle said about them having a bunch of second liners, and obviously you got to tip your cap to them, what they did. Where it showed is on the power play. They were 14.3% on the power play, and they win a series, which is insane to me, especially when you got other teams like Edmonton clicking at a 56% rate, So I think that's where they miss it a little bit. But it's also, I played a long time in the same division with against Yanni Gourde, and that whole team, it looks like you're playing a bunch of Yanni Gourdes.
Oh, he's a piece of shit to play against.
Check, just disrupting everything. Pest to play against, but at the end of the day, they came together all year in what they proved from last year with, bringing in a couple guys having better years, guys getting to, like we talked to Eberle Biz after their overtime win, and he was just saying, like, you get more comfortable in the city, you know your way around. It's not your first year there. Like, you got to find your places to go, your restaurants. Like, that takes a little while for guys, and they figured it out this year. And along with being a tough building to play in, that they brought it, and they brought the energy and fed off their crowd in their city. And and Whit, you said it too. No one gave them any credit or expectations to move on. Everyone thought they were just going to get worked over by Colorado, the defending champs. But credit to Hackstall and his crew for moving on.
Boys, they're the castaways. They're the redheaded stepchild of the NHL with guys who are passed over. Who assists on the game winner? A guy that Nashville put on waivers who makes the play to chip it past the defenseman so fucking Bjorkstrand could go down. Eli Tolvanen. He makes that play along the wall. So the last thing I need to touch on is Ron Francis looks like an absolute genius. 0 deadline moves. 0 leveraging of the future to get the production of what he's gotten out of this team. Think about the hauls that other teams gave up to dream about being in this situation. 0 deadline moves. It's going to be a dangerous team for years to come. And what an inspiring group.
My last thing is, had to bring up Cogliano. Comes back with a broken net, just mind-blowing stuff. And Seattle, Adam Larson was kind of a little bit of a punchline when he got traded straight up for Taylor Hall. I don't know if you guys remember that. Yep. Remember, that's it. Adam Larson, this guy, Edmonton. He's played pretty well there at times. But he ends up, I think he was their first signing. I think he signed with Seattle that summer they came into the league. He was awesome. And Oleksiak was in Dallas. He's now going against his old team, but talk about a big body. Talk about a playoff guy. So, yeah, I've been wrong. I'm picking against you again. I think Dallas is a sneaky cup favorite. But what a series for the city of Seattle. And I wish we were getting out there to a game. And we'll be out there next year for the Winter Classic. But like I said, Hazy said the atmosphere is out of this world.
They're basically playing with house money. Like you mentioned, Francis, no deadline moves and didn't have to give up any draft picks, and that was huge for them. Keith, you mentioned the power play. The only team with the worst power play than Colorado
Islanders
and Seattle was the Islanders so far in the playoffs.
Shocker.
And, right. And also last week we mentioned with Ty Cardi, I believe you say his name. He come in and got that goal. Well, there was a great story that came out NHL.com the next day. He texted his parents. He said one word, playing. And they're like, we're going to get out there. 1,600 miles away. They were in Kingston, Ontario. They made plans. They got out of work early, blah, blah, blah. They got on the plane. They missed his first shift. One of their relatives showed it on FaceTime for them. But they got there in time for his goal, and it was just a great celebration.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool little story, man. I thought it was a nice thing to share. So
that's a little nugget, R.A. Fucking right.
Fucking A, Nugget, man. There he is. There he is, buzzing. I think that right now we should play the audio for those Canadian viewers who didn't get to see the TNT broadcast of Hank's breakdown of Grubauer, because he's going to be such a big component going into next series. He describes his style of play. If it's a little hard to understand without seeing the demo that we did on TNT, you can then go check it out online to make it make a little bit more sense. But I think it's such an important position, especially come playoff time, and it's a great teaching clip from a guy who's a Hall of Famer. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. And once again, if you don't understand it, go check it out with the breakdown from him on the internet.
Before we continue, folks, you know that we've been part of the Chevy EV family, but we've got big news, great news. You've seen it before. The first ever all-electric Silverado is the official Barstool most valuable truck. We got the chance to see this thing and experience it. It's a complete game changer. It's available 400-mile range, GM estimated, on a full charge. Over 10 feet of length in the bed with the multi-flex tailgate combined with the multi-flex midgate. Multi-flex is just, when you got a tailgate and a midgate with multi-flex, you're winning. There's a large 17-inch diagonal display screen. Everyone wants that big screen out front when you're driving. You see your music playing. You see maybe where you're wanting to go on Waze or one of those, things I'm talking about. Google Maps. 17 inches ain't bad. It could tow up to 1,000 pounds of max towing. It goes 0 to 60 in under 4.5 seconds with the wow mode. Whip it out Wednesday wow mode. Thing gets humming 4.5 seconds. And up to an impressive 785 foot-pounds of torque. Torque is another valuable word when it comes to trucks. Head over to Chevy.com to learn more right now.
To me, he's a great mix of old and new. And with that, I mean, he's a butterfly goalie, but his stands are pretty. We talked about this earlier, where a lot of goalies play on inside edge, pretty wide, gloves out. He's more together, gloves close to his body, and that save you talked about. Even when he moves side to side, he keeps his glove tight to his body. And what you want to do when you go side to side, you don't want to reach, because it becomes a very hard save when you reach, and then you have to react again. You can see on the replay where he comes together, gloves close to the body, and then react. And your first instinct a lot of times when you go side to side and you're late and you see the shot coming, you reach, and then it's very hard to react from there. But he's so compact. He's kind of like a square moving around. Another thing I notice is play around the net. There's an overusage around the league right now, reverse VH, where guys are down, they stay down, the puck ends up in the slot. We've seen a couple goals from the slot, from the corners in these playoffs. I think you have to find a good mix where sometimes you need to be on your feet to make sure you're in a good position for that play in the slot or even a rebound play. So I love his mix of old and new.
Wayne's yelling at the TV right now saying, thank you, because he wants goalies standing up more.
Yeah.
You saw it on the Yamamoto goal where he ended up rolling up top. And, I mean, I know there was bodies in front, but he's already down like this where the whole top of the net is available. So Grubauer tends to wait to drop that low or really never.
I mean, you can see it at times he's down low, but I think he works really hard with his positioning of the gloves, where how you put them, if it's far from your body, far in front, for him, it's tight to his body all the time. And even when he moves side to side, he keeps it very tight, so it looks like a square out there. But the biggest thing for me, because he stands, he becomes more patient. And to me, that's the most important thing for goalies, to be patient and read the shot. And you see, he makes a lot of good reads because of that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying, do you think it's more important as a goalie that's 6'1"? He's not 6'4", 6'5", like a lot of these massive goalies we're seeing today, to stay on his feet and be more patient?
That makes a huge difference. We talked about reverse VH to whoever's watching. I can't even do it with pads.
Pants are too tight.
Yeah, and too stiff. But that's when you're down with this leg on the post, like this, and you sit down here, right? If you're 6'1", 6'2", you're going to open up a lot of room up here, right? But if you're 6'5", 6'6", you can get away with it. But even when you're 6'5", if you stay down a lot, it's harder to attack the shot from the slot, and it's also harder to recover from a broken play.
And also you saw Swayman today, very similar situation where the shot came from the opposite side and it was up there.
It was down, and the puck ended up kind of over there, and he was just sitting down, right? I would love to see goalies be more on their feet and kind of pick and choose when it's time to be down, reverse VH, or be on your feet. Not all the time. There's a place for everything.
I don't know how much time we have, but what are the benefits to that V8, the reverse?
Well, you're tighter down low, right? And there's so many plays around the net. So you need to make sure you're tight around the crease down low, because a lot of plays happen down there and broken plays, right?
So
and
you
you
have more
cover
leverage?
a lot with your pads.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the biggest change. It changed a lot over the last 10 years, how much guys use it, and guys are getting very good at it. I just think it's a little bit of an overusage of it.
Overkill.
Overkill at times. That's why I love Grubauer. It's a great
Don't
mix.
look at me. Don't look at me.
I do have to read the prop.
Biz 20 promo code for this.
No, there's no fucking promo code. I'm just trying to teach the kids, man.
Wow, yeah, though that's a great call. I don't. When's the last time we had a Biz 20 promo code? I feel like since we've upped our brands, we don't get too many Biz 20 promo codes anymore. Biz, you can't get one for a car for us or what?
We're going to be getting Biz 30 promo codes for all Florida Panthers gear after the second round when we fucking bend them over, no spit, no loop, sandpaper finish. How about that, Cats fans? Meow. Because they're about to choke.
Biz, you want some action?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. You like the Cats, eh?
Can I quickly say Keith scared me out of a bet because I was like, Toronto's going to win, and Keith goes, all right, let's make a bet. You lose, Toronto loses. You got to go spend 2 nights, 48 hours at Pearson Airport. I started shaking and twitching. 6-minute abs, and I just said, no, I'm done.
Dude, that's a long time at Pearson.
I said you had to go to Daytona Beach for a weekend with RA, and he set the itinerary.
Keith, that would be fun,
stay
buddy.
in the same hotel room, too.
I said I'd do that.
One king-size bed.
You got to cut RA's toenails.
Yeah.
Oh, now you grossed everybody out, even myself, for Christ's sake. My wife looked at my feet the other day. She's like, what's wrong with your feet? I was like, I'm fucking middle-aged, honey. They just go fucking, like, you look like a caveman at a certain
You have to
point.
apply a lotion on his skin because it's the driest, pastiest skin I've ever seen in my life. It puts the lotion in the basket. Hey, it's the scene from Dumb and Dumber when he's got that trying to drill his fucking toenails off. Hey, what about instead of Daytona, Key West? We'll do a better location.
Dude, I went to
Keith
Key
goes
West.
to Key West every year.
Oh, you like RA? That's RA's spot.
June 1st.
Oh, you haven't been yet?
RA, you went solo?
Yeah. I was I was in Tampa for a buddy's wedding, and there was a lot of time to kill, and I looked up flights, and I said, I'll go down to Key West. I always wanted to go, so I went by myself and had a great time, and fat broads and hookers and mopeds, oh my. Fat broads and hookers and mopeds, oh my. What a fucking wild place that was. I went fishing on my birthday. It was awesome, dude. It was a fucking phenomenal spot. Highly recommended. You don't feel like you're in Florida, man. Like, everything's kind of loosey-goosey there, but
How is it fishing with hookers?
You feel like you're like in a NASCAR Bali, kind of? Is it like NASCAR Bali?
Well, it's like a tropical feel. Like, the beaches aren't great there, but the bars are unreal, and it's just like a real festive vibe. But yeah, I definitely want to get back there. Kind of a pain in the ass to get to if you're a little far away, like Boston.
Fishing?
But, dude, I went out, Biz, and I didn't get a charter by myself, but I paid like $150. There was only one other couple on it. I must have caught like 30 mahi-mahi, man, because it was just put the hook in, boom, boom, boom. And I couldn't keep them all, obviously. I said, I'll keep the catch. I tipped the guy out. I took a couple fillets, took my rented moped right to the restaurant. And it's great. You pay like $3, you put it in the bar, and they cook your fish right there for you, throwing some like corn on the cob, some veggies and shit. So, yeah, fucking great time. I can't wait to go back, man.
How about the bet is you got to lick RA's fingers after he eats corn on the cob?
Oh.
I mean, if you like butter, you're good. All right, let's move it along here, but
RA was actually catching like little jellyfish. He was so banged up. They're like, yeah, that's a salmon. That's a tuna fish.
don't make me dig out my pitches. No,
What do you want to bet?
Developed. Huh?
What do you want to bet, Keith?
How about a chain? Because you're in the chain gang.
Ooh, back on the chain gang.
A nice one too.
Like, what's a nice chain cost?
God, no idea. Herringbone?
I don't know. Biz will bet you $50 worth of a chain.
I'll bet
so
you
like
more than $50.
one piece of the chain.
How about this? How about we bet $500 straight up? Done?
That'll get you a chain.
Toronto's minus 180, just so you know, Keith.
I hit
that.
Vegas.
The Cats are plus 152.
Vegas.
Well, he's also made 50 sheets. I think he can fucking afford it.
It's like a penny for him.
70, he says. Unbelievable. Who do we got to get to next, boys? Oh my God.
Minnesota, Dallas. Dallas, they went down 2-1 in the series. Then they rattled off 3 wins in a row. They knocked off Minnesota, outscored them 11-3 in those games. Matt Dumm's hit on Pavelski. It seemed to kind of galvanize the team because it was a great article in The Athletic, and Pete DeBoer, the way he handled it, instead of like focus on it or even mentioning it, he just looked forward. He praised the officials and didn't mention it, and that kind of like carried over to the team. And like I said, they won 3 in a row after that. The Wild scored only 14 goals during the series. After a 40-goal season, Kirill Kaprizov had just 1 goal, no assist. Matt Boldy had 31 goals in the season, none of the playoffs. Freddie Gaudreau led the team with 3. Of course, they were missing Joel Eriksson. He was hurt. He only played like 1 shift for 19 seconds. But, Minnesota, they're starting to kind of, second year in a row, they go up 2-1 in the series, only to lose 3 straight. They've lost 14 of their last 19 home playoff games. It's the 4th season under Dean Everson that they have not advanced. So, Biz, does this beg the question, are the Wild the American Maple Leafs?
I feel like they're cursed, definitely as of late. And you just mentioned those 2-1 leads back-to-back years. And then you thought at some point that Kaprizov was going to find his game, in which we saw during the last couple regular seasons. And I thought 100% after the series was over, they were going to say, yeah, he came back early and played through something. But even he said, no, I just really couldn't find my game and get back into my offensive rhythm. And that just really come to hurt them. And you saw Boldy and what he did with Kaprizov going down and how he was able to contribute. And just those 2 young guys getting shut down the way they did. And then obviously Ottinger being a big reason for that. They just couldn't get that secondary scoring. Eriksson was a beast all season long. And through that season in which they did deal with injuries, he provided a lot of their good two-way play and a lot of their offense, especially with Hartman early on not really contributing. I want to say Foligno finished with 7 goals after finishing with 23 the year before. But for me, I look at this series and I just look at that horribly officiated Game 4 in which you talk about Dallas not using the excuse of the Dumba hit. I feel like they just felt sorry for themselves. And then I have never seen a player face worse luck with those 2 calls to cost them, because both power plays were scored on in Game 3, and then to start Game 4 on that 5-minute disadvantage because of the Foligno hit on Faxa. Is it Faxa?
Yeah.
Yeah, Radek Faxa, yep.
That was when I felt that everything had shifted, and it was kind of this woe is me mentality, and they couldn't fucking figure it out. And the way that Gustafsson played in Game 1, I don't think we really saw that ever again. Goes back to last year's goalie decision-making, where I felt that he should have played Game 2. I understand maybe why they went to Flower, but when you have a goalie that red hot and he's that young, he can handle back-to-back games. Like, just to throw him in there. In some cases, they don't even know the pressure they're under. And he seemed calm as a cucumber in Game 1, and then to take him out and take him out of rhythm and then go to Flower, and then Flower gets lit up, and then it's back to Gustafsson. It just seemed like, I don't know, that was a weird coaching move. But other than that, I felt that, the last 3 games, Minnesota just really couldn't establish anything. It was very disappointing. And I don't know, 4 years in a row now, they've been able to get out of the first round.
It was through 2 games
with Dean Evison, sorry.
Through 2 games, I was like, I kind of want to switch my pick. I had Dallas, and yeah, everything just switched. Now, there is not a chance in hell Kaprizov was anywhere close to healthy. That was not the same player, and that someone that young and dynamic doesn't all of a sudden have nothing. He had no legs. It was a knee injury, I believe, and there was just probably no chance that he would have been playing had it not been the playoffs. That, coupled with the Eriksson being out, the big playoff-type centerman that can shut people down, it was just too much for them to handle. Dallas really did rally around the Pavelski injury, because what did Sagan do? He took the net front spot, and he had 4 goals in the series, and he stepped it up. And Dallas is like, I don't know how. Their odds right now to win the Stanley Cup, that's not a bad bet, I don't think, because this Ottinger is the best goalie in the NHL right now. This kid is a freak. In any sort of breakdown they have. What was the one game? I don't know if it was Game 3 or 4. I think there was 5 breakaways or 2-on-1s combined, and he's sitting there He's not even having to make amazing saves. Just perfect positionally, and the puck's just hitting them, no rebound. It's like when you have Heiskanen and Robertson and this kid, it's like Dallas is with Jersey in terms of had they lost, they both moved on, which is even scarier. Had they lost, they're the two teams that I feel like are almost saying, that's all right, our window's kind of just opening. And Dallas already with these young studs, and now Ben and Sagan, yes, they're making $10 million, but they don't have to be the guys. It's the same. Who did we already bring up already in this podcast?
Rupe Hintz was a beast.
Oh, this kid is a freak. He's a freak. And he's got so much speed and energy. So they were able to somehow retool quickly through the draft and have these young studs come up and make the big money guys who are on the back nine not have to be the number one players. And that's why this team's so scary. Minnesota, I also want to give them like a little respect because, yeah, it fell apart, and Mike Russo had some harsh tweets in terms of how ugly it's gotten in the playoffs. He was hard on them, which you understand. It's been a while since they've had success, but they're in cap hell. They were in cap hell this year. They're going to be in cap hell next year, and then finally, at least they're able to get out of this jail that was the right decision in terms of the buyouts of Sutter and Parise. But to even kind of have the team that they had this year going through this cap, crisis, I'll call it, it's pretty impressive. So you get healthy. I still think bright things ahead for them. But yeah, the putting Fleury in messed with the mojo a little bit. But at the same time, they'd been doing that. And, Bruins fans wish they did it sooner. So it was just a team that is built to win and like prepared to go on a little bit of a run here, taken over as the series went longer with one of their top players out.
And I felt physically early it was Minnesota dominating, whereas the series went on, you like look at Jamie Benn, Marchment. I feel like Domi can add some of that physicality. Hakanpää, Sutter was a piece of shit to play against, especially early on. And I go back to that game one where he was cross-checking Kaprizov and getting on him. And I wonder how much that deterred him from getting involved more physically, and if Whit is right at the fact that he had an injury. Have you had teammates where they were battling stuff after the series just be like, no, I wasn't battling anything. That was just, I just couldn't figure it out? Because he talked to the media. He said, no, I was 100%.
Yeah, no, because usually but he's been out, right, since, for the last few weeks. So usually it is guys battling stuff, whether maybe he's not admitting it and doesn't want to put a excuse on something about his play. I don't know, but yeah, you could tell he definitely wasn't himself, and you just wish he was 100% healthy to see what he can do in the playoffs and, what an electric player he is. And going back to Ottinger, I said it, I think on TNT, he reminds me of Carey Price when Carey Price was who he was, just made everything look so easy, making saves. I remember taking a slap shot on Carey, not that I had a hard slap shot or anything, but hit it as good as I could, and he just went like this, just quick little save.
Perfect mechanics.
On to the next play.
Thanks for the muffin.
Everything, just yeah, exactly. And the one guy I do want to show some love to in Minnesota is Matt Zuccarello. He is a gamer, that guy, and obviously not a ton of help around them in this series with some of their big guys having a little bit of cold series, which obviously happens. But yeah, I thought he was great. I mean, as much as you see, like, the last 10, 15 years, it's, all right, whoever's got the best goalie is going to win. And last year kind of proved it a little different with Colorado winning, being able to, high fly and scoring goals. But if this Ottinger plays the way he did, and we saw it in that game in Minnesota with his family in the building after a loss, just coming back and playing so good. And I think that's going to be his moment where he looks at himself and he's like, okay, I know I'm the best in the game right now. And especially what he did last year too against Calgary was unbelievable. But
that's the goalie he looked like in the last 3 games of the series, and that's what should scare other teams. And I know that it's going to be a great goalie matchup with Grubauer playing the way that he's playing, but I think that it's fair to say everybody agrees that Ottinger is the number one right now in net in the playoffs. He's the guy, if you were drafting a team of the guys available who are still playing, you're picking him to start in net.
Yeah. It's also, I was a little worried when Pavelski got out, just obviously the veteran leadership that he brings to that team and what he did this year producing and helping those young guys on his line. But those guys, man, I think they're a different breed. That Rupe Hintz and Robinson, those guys bring it every night. I don't think they kid. I think it goes back a little bit too. Like, they're playing in Dallas. They're flying under the radar a little bit. It's not hockey heaven like it is in Toronto, Edmonton. Like, these guys are just out there playing the game that they love, having fun, obviously being big contributors every night too. But what they've done with their young guys, and you got to give a lot of credit to the old guys too, of not being grumpy old men and not letting those guys take over the team. Like, they're helping these guys along. They're showing them the way. They're playing good hockey as well, but they're just taking a little bit lesser of a role, and it's helping them win. And at this point of the year and this time, all you care about is getting those 16 wins.
Merles, what do you make of their resilienceness?
Yeah, I missed that. I thought that was fine when you said that. You know, Biz?
I thought it was a word too.
Yeah, so I think you're all right there. I look at Dallas. I looked at their bottom six. I noticed those guys. They were so fast. They're flying up and down the ice. They're putting the pressure on the other team the whole time. So I really like them. I noticed the same thing as you guys, Ottinger, in that game 4. It was like, he's back. And so I took him actually to shut out. I said take the shutout. I bet under 2.5 goals, but you knew he was back. He goes and has the shutout. He's so calm. Got to shout out the coach, Pete DeBoer. He's been there before. He gets teams there. And little moves like that with the refereeing goes a long way in the playoffs. You be nice to them. You catch a call here or there. You say something in the paper. So a veteran coach like that, I really like their chances in this next series.
How many times has Pete DeBoer been to the conference final? 3 different teams. I want to say he went to the finals with the Sharks.
In Jersey
Devils, New Jersey,
Devils.
And then did he go to the conference finals with Vegas?
Shit, I don't know off the top of my head. I know he's been to the Cup twice. And he's looking for his third time.
But just the type of guy where he steps into a new team and he always has instant success. So he's really good at getting in touch with his players and getting the most out of them. And very, very, very impressive. Whit, did you have anything on to wrap up mini Dallas? We already gave Ottinger a double wrister at the Weston Garden.
Whit, does Ottinger not remind you of Carey Price when Carey Price was like just the calm, cool, just hits him. He's so good.
And Jesus Christ, this Schmid too in New Jersey. We'll get into that one.
A couple notes, other notes here. Matt Dumba, Grinelli actually said this over a little while ago. Matt Dumba, he had a concussion that kept him out of the third period in Game 6. He said, definitely wasn't the way I wanted it to end. I thought it would be different this year. I love Mitty. My heart's in Mitty. Says he hopes it is at the end. And then Michael Russo said that he talked about his best friend, Jonas Brodin, on the team. He said Brodin come up to him during the intermission and said, I'm not going to let you play because he was in such dire straits because of the concussion. So, I mean, those are a nice story to hear. I mean, you hear these, the concussion spot is missing stuff, but for your own teammate to come over and say, hey, buddy, sit down, you're all done. I mean, it's nice to hear guys are looking out for each other like that,
Dumba really turned things around. He was a healthy scratch late in the season, and I thought he was probably overall one of their most impactful, if not the most impactful D in the lineup. I thought he was very physical. I thought great job of jumping in the play, getting shots through. He was probably the most noticeable.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll have no problem getting a contract for next season. Also, Joe Pavelski is going to be in the lineup for Game 1 versus Seattle. He was practiced on the line with Domi and Marchment, so good for Dallas, man. After what happened to him in the first round, it's good to see him back out there. And yeah, you mentioned Rupe Hintz leading scoring after the first round with 12 points. I don't think too many people would have hit that bet, huh, Merles? Not against Rupe Hintz, just so many goddamn stars in the league these days.
No way. But he does fly. He's awesome. He flies. He can score. He's on the power play. He's playing with that Robertson. This Robertson, he's like a robot. It doesn't really show emotion. I saw one thing today. He can't even grow facial hair yet. But he throws everything.
He's like, I'm trying.
Yeah, everything he throws at the net ends up going in. It's really amazing.
Also, Dallas, 37.5 power play percentage, second among the remaining teams. Of course, we'll get to the number 1 team in a little bit. But tonight was another Game 7. The Rangers in Jersey. We had Pasha, boots on the ground there. Looked like the Rangers might have solved out Schmid in Game 6, but...
Jesus.
There he is.
The menace. Pash, you were there tonight. How'd it go, bud? Well, you know how the game went. Tell us. Give us your take here, buddy.
Did you drink? Are you a little buzzed up?
I wasn't drinking during the game, but once the game started kind of winding down, I had a couple pops and got Got one of these in my hands. And listen, I don't want to sit here and gloat, but the Devils are an absolute wagon. The Rangers suck. Patrick Kane is a liability. Next question.
Oh, I mean, you go ahead, guys.
Are you in the office at American Whiskey?
I could tell he's buzzed already.
Good call. I actually am at the office in American Whiskey. I'm down below here. Got the good Wi-Fi, the air conditioning. Yeah.
Pasha. Oh, Pasha might get his pee-pee wet tonight. He only needed the Rangers to pull off an upset win and to introduce himself to women for the first time.
No, the Devil's actually roasting him underneath the camera right now. We just can't see it. But I'll tell you, Pasha.
Oh, shout out, NJ Devil.
Yep.
Beauty.
Oh,
I was wrong.
He dialed in the tickets.
I was wrong. We were all wrong, Pasha. We were all wrong. I got no problem saying that. I texted you. I said, Pasha, 0 to 10, how nervous are you? You said on the record, 0. Off the record, 15. But Game 7 comes around. That was the biggest shit kicking in a Game 7 I can ever remember. From the opening puck drop, it was every single thing you said would happen. It all came together in Game 7. The team speed, the relentlessness, the team that could break out the puck so easily. The Rangers, at one point in the game, shot slots were 11-1. Rangers. Devils. The Rangers got in the zone, one pass on the wall, turnover out of the zone. There was no sustained pressure. And Jesus Christ, this Jack Hughes, you know what sometimes the difference is? The Rangers get the first overall pick. They get Alex Lafreniere. And you know, I think he'll have a really good NHL career. The Devils get the first overall pick and got the next Patrick Kane.
Listen, there's a lot of guys the Rangers all chirp. Lafreniere had a terrible series, but he's a good guy. He's not on my hit list. But listen, Patty Kane, I don't have to say another word about him, okay? He had that big goal in Game 2, and every greasy New York Rangers fan came out of their fucking basement, got on their Twitter to DM me and let me know, oh, Patty Kane's the man. Well, what did he do since then? I think 2 secondary assists, -5, bunch of minor penalties. The guy, listen, one of the best American players of all time. I never chirped his legacy. I said, in this series, he'll be a liability. And guess what? He was a liability. He was getting toasted wide, left and right, taking minor penalties. Listen, Kane is over the hill. The Rangers suck. The Devils are a wagon.
What are some positive things you saw from Jersey that they adjusted well to starting in Game 3? I look at the penalty kill where they got torched in the first couple games. I think since the start of Game 3, they allowed 1 power play goal for the New York Rangers. They killed 17 of 18. What did they do differently other than put Asia Akira Schmidt in net? Well, this kid's fucking kicking like crazy.
I think it was 2 things. Like you said, Biz, yeah, they were way more aggressive. The first couple of games, their whole game was timid, not just their penalty kill. Their whole game was timid. Second youngest team in the league, I believe. The nerves got to them. They were sloppy. I mean, Merles and I were there. They were missing every pass. They were just they looked very sloppy.
They looked like the Bruins last night.
Yeah. And then that really was accentuated on their power play because they were just timid. They were timid. They were letting the play come to them, and that's the last thing you can do in the PK. That's why Kreider was, busted us not too early. Got 4 power play goals in the first period of Game 1 and then disappeared. Sick, man. Awesome. Anyways, they did a good job on the PK. I see you laughing. A good job on the PK. But, yeah, that's the biggest thing. They adjusted. They got over the nerves. If you take the first 2 games out of that, they dominated the whole series. And Shesterkin's one guy. He's one guy I didn't want to chirp on the Rangers because he showed up every night, and he's probably one of the only good players on the team. But after what he did to Timo Meier, the guy's laid out on the floor, hands in the air, and Shesterkin skates over. I don't know if you guys saw this. Skates over him and starts chirping him.
Pasha, they had been battling all series, and earlier in the game, Meier put it in the net, like after the whistle or whatever it was. I don't remember. And Shesterkin fired the puck at him, like so. There obviously was something there, but yeah, seeing a guy pretty much dead on the ice. And there was
definitely something there. And listen, I get it in the heat of the moment. I'd probably do the same thing. I'm just saying, I was going to pump Shesterkin's tires. After he did that, no love for Shesterkin.
Going back to that kid line, I thought that they were completely irrelevant compared to last year where they had a major...
Kakko was the biggest bust in NHL history.
Well, I mean, pump the brakes here. Lafreniere in the seven.
There's a couple bigger ones on this podcast right now.
Alex Lafreniere in the 7 games, 0 goals, 0 assists, no PIMs, plus minus was even. Didn't take any face-offs, 0 net takeaways, and finished the series with 9 shots on net. So you could see him a little bit out there tonight, but even in the shots that he had, it felt like I think I had a fucking harder wrist shot than that guy. They were the blueberry muffins heading in there.
Lafreniere was a complete ghost, but that's not the Rangers' biggest problem. You're paying a guy, Artemi Panarin, $12 million. Did he have a point? Did you notice
he had 2 points in the first game, and then he went the last 6 without a point. He's never gone, I think, 4 games in his NHL career without getting a point. He went 6.
There wasn't
let's read the list here. Zibanejad, 1 goal. Kane, 1 goal. Kakko, 1 goal. Hedl, 1 goal. Panarin, 0 goals. Lafreniere, 0 goals. Like, that is an ugly fucking... Hey, and the fact that they were able to get by New Jersey, where... Did Jesper Bratt have a goal the whole series?
Nope.
Besides the empty net. Besides the empty net.
Okay, empty net. Did Timo Meier have a goal the whole series?
He did not.
He didn't have a point.
Oh, my God. And then who's the other big name guy for them?
Nico Hischier didn't have a goal.
Nico Hischier. And then what about Palat? Did he have only 1 goal?
Palat had 1 empty netter, yeah.
Which is like, if I would have told you that heading into the series for the New Jersey
I'd say
Devils,
they got swept, right?
I would have said they got swept. So
exactly.
The biggest difference being this kid in net who seems to have alligator blood. The way you described Ottinger is the way that I see this Schmid guy in net now too, where he's even bigger, and he just seems like he's on his fucking angle every time, where there was no rebounds tonight. And if there were, they were going right to the corner, and it looked like a vintage Martin Brodeur just directing anything where he wanted to with that rebound control.
Schmid was definitely dialed. He was dialed. There was all this talk online about like who should start the next game. Like, should Vanacek
like,
start?
what are they talking
crazy.
about?
Yeah, it's crazy. No. BTEX honestly had a great season. Like, he did a good job, but like Schmid's the guy, you got to ride him. But I got to come for you a little bit here, Wet. Erik Haula. Couple of things to say about him. First of all, you chirped all season when the Bruins were doing, they're all, okay, it's a regular season, we're buzzing, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, Pavel Zacha's going to get, oh my God.
Pavel Zacha in that game 7 missed the net probably 500 times on that one shift on the power play. He was ripping it high and wide every time. And then you look at a guy like Erik Haula, who stepped up. I think he had 3 goals, couple assists this series, big time goals, and the cherry on top. After the game tonight, the mascot, shout out NJ Devil, absolute great, best mascot in the league, hooked us up, me and Grinelli with tickets the first game.
Yeah, I'm going to have a tattoo of him on my ass in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that. We're downstairs, we're by the rink, we're down underneath, and we're walking by, and like one of the ice guys, like, yo, Pasha, fucking right. It's like, thanks for supporting the Devils.
Yeah, you're the man, Pasha.
As Hall is walking by, and Hall goes, hey, you better give him hell on Twitter.
No shit.
Yeah. He goes, Pasha,
look at you getting HJs from the fucking Devils guys in the hallways of the rink.
They hear your
Pasha,
chirps.
the Haula Zacha thing was more about you saying how horrible Zacha was.
I said he's not a big game player, and he disappears.
No, you said he was horrible. You go, your exact words were, he'll be good for 3 games, horrible for 7.
Exactly. How was he in the last 3 games they lost that series?
Oh, no. Haula was way better than him in the first round. But throughout the season, obviously, I'm going to be like, yo, you've been dogging this Zacha guy to me for 3 years. He looks pretty good for the Bruins.
Why do you think I've been dogging him? Every time he's in a big game, he disappears. And you texted me, you go, what's your sample size?
He didn't play any big games for Jersey, dude.
Exactly. That was your chirp in December when you texted me that. And then now, how do you do in the playoffs? You didn't win this team a series.
Let's keep it a little bit more positive. Why don't you put your mascara on and give a big gummer to your boy Jack Hughes? What'd you think of him in the first series? And then we're going to kick your ass off of here, you chirper.
I thought Hughes was awesome. I thought he was like, skating circles around people, dominating. The Devils are just a much faster team than the Rangers. I thought Hughes was, kind of a prime example of that. I thought for him, he honestly didn't even have the best series that he could. None of the Devils did. I think they're going to handle the Canes pretty well. Canes are a great team, but they're missing Pacioretty, Svechnikov, Teravainen. That's over 100 goals right there. They're struggling to score. Jesus Christ, mixing a water, Pasha.
Have another one, Pasha.
Big deal. Get a big deal on you, buddy.
Now you're missing Meier, though. Well, not that he did anything.
No, Meier's fine.
Oh, okay.
What'd you do? Give him mouth to mouth after the game in the trainer room?
Don't worry about that. But I can't help notice the guy in the bottom right of my screen here, Keith Yandle. Great guy, absolute legend.
When he sleeps.
But I can't help remember a certain sentence he said saying the Devils are going to miss the playoffs.
Oh, here we go. Now you deal with him, Keith.
All right. So I apologize for that on Sportsnet a couple weeks after I said it. It was I'll explain to you later why I said it, but you know who New Jersey Devils remind me of is the Florida Panthers last year, and it's because of Andrew Brunette. I think he has them playing a run and gun game. I think he has them playing exactly how he had. Not that he's the head coach, but I'm sure he has a lot to say. And the way that he had Florida clicking last year, knowing the young guys in the league, knowing that it's a different game than it was, 5-10 years ago, he has them clicking at a rapid pace right now, and they were amazing tonight. Deserved to win that series.
What is Lindy Ruff, like Joe Biden? He's the puppet master, and it's actually Burnett calling the shots.
He's a handler just to find the bench. You see how old he looks now?
You don't think Lindy Ruff, been around for 50 years, is going to say to his assistant coach, "Hey, what did your team do that won the President's Trophy last year? What did they do well? Let's try to, bring some of that into our group." So Andrew Burnett's going to be gone. He'll be a head coach next year.
Lindy looks like the type of guy who would use the word resilience-ness. So that's probably what. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Pasha. Why don't you maybe apologize for your Devils fans chanting "Fire Lindy"?
Yeah,
the first game of the year.
Yeah.
That's such a reach right now. You're going to reach
we're
back
grasping
to the
at straws.
second game of the year and ask for an apology. They already did it. They apologized by chanting a fully sorry Lindy game 15 after a 15-game heater. Like, that's what you're grasping at right now? Come on.
Looking for anything.
I think that's pretty much it, boys, as far as the Devils stroke-off session. It was the Jekyll and Hyde show. They didn't show up the first two games. Yands, do you have any final words to Pasha before the second round?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, he just signed off. Yikes, Yands. Come on.
Yeah, I'll say congrats on your win, Pasha. I was wrong. I'm just happy I didn't get in on the $500 wager with you. So.
Well, listen, Army, Wet, you guys have my Venmo. But you guys were all talking
Pasha,
Rangers.
You owe me $500, so we're even.
No, I already Venmoed you $500 for that bet, so you can send it right back. Thanks.
Fuck. Well, either way, we're even.
Well, spend that money on a new hairline and get off the screen and go cut the sandbagger, the Portnoy Josh Richard sandbagger that's coming out in a couple weeks.
Love all you boys.
Congrats, Pasha. Congratulations. On to the second round, baby.
Wrap it up. We don't need any second round babies popping out.
Not sure about resilience in this biz, but I believe the cucumber is the calmest of all the vegetables, as you alluded to earlier.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Next up.
All right. Did you have anything for that series, or was that we pretty much summarized everything?
Yeah, I mean, people ask me who I liked. I mean, I got friends on both sides. Obviously, Jimmy Vesey, a friend of the family, and I know Frosty on the Devil. So I was kind of torn watching it. I didn't have any action on it. I just kind of sat and I'll be happy for whoever wins and sad for whoever lost tonight. So I mean, Schmidt, I've been stroking him off for 2 weeks, man. That kid is what are Wisconsin Mite odds right now, Merles? I'm going to have to jump on them.
When he first came in, they were 125-1 because I looked it up the one night trying to do a mush on him. So some kid put it in and he sent it to me, 125-1. They're not up yet now for today, because
Whit,
the new
I'll ask you a
games and
controversial
stuff. But,
question.
here we go.
What do you think of Gallant? What do you think of the way I felt like he just leaned to the work harder pep talk rather than maybe, I don't know, changing things up? What'd you think?
I think Gallant gets fired.
Wow, really?
It was that bad of a non-adjustment to changing anything. Now, you saw him change the lines in Game 7. By the way, I don't want him to get fired, dude. I would never want somebody to lose their job. There's a couple people out there, but not him. But I'm saying the way that went down, and you can't take a 2-0 series lead like that going home and perform the way they did. Dude, they lost 4 or 5, and as Pasha said, like they were. Game 6, the Rangers. They took that one over, but they were down 1-0. Got a really lucky bounce off Kreider's leg to make it 1-1. And other than that, it was domination. And then you see the Game 7. It's like maybe I'm reaching on getting fired, but
there's something about everywhere he goes after a couple years. I don't know what the GM see, but there's something that's there in terms of like, all right, we're not changing. Like, nothing's different. And you don't always like want to blame the coach. I mean, you talked about the lack of production. I mean, Panarin's the number one dog there, and then Lafreniere with that series, those numbers, zeros across the board, first overall. But something about the way the series went, you said it, I didn't see any sort of, now we're not in the room, but publicly didn't say anything in terms of like what we need to switch, and then they didn't switch anything. And Game 7, they switched the lines up, they got a little going. But anytime they did, it was Schmid. The glove save he made on Trocheck when it was 2-0 was unreal.
I thought Trocheck looked like the best player up front for New York from games 1 to 7.
I'd say Kreider, but after that, yeah.
Well, as far as execution, I just noticed Trocheck 5-on-5 a lot more.
But, this John Marino kid got traded for Ty Smith, who played in the minors most of the year for Pittsburgh. In Wilkes-Barre. John Marino, the play on that second goal, he walks Mikkola, and as I pump Kreider's tires, Kreider's just like standing there, pushes him, and then skates right by who got the second? Tatar. It was like what do you do? It was just boneheaded mistakes. So that's not the coach's fault, but the Devils had guys step up, and like I mentioned, Jack Hughes this guy is so fucking fast. It's amazing when he gets buzzing through the neutral zone. There's nothing now maybe the Carolina's D's better skaters. You're going to see Slavin. You know what I mean? You're going to see a different type of defense you're trying to wheel through, but he looks unstoppable right now when he gets the puck with speed. Besides his amazing fall at the blue line today, which is one of the best falls I've ever seen.
I think it just feeds into the conversation of these 8 teams that are remaining. It's almost like the American takeover. You have the 4 best American-born players in the game right now still in playoffs. And it might even go deeper than that. I was just thinking off the top, Jason Robertson, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, and Austin Matthews. Those are the face of the league type players that are still involved, and we keep talking and reinforcing this new blood. It's new blood time where you talked about all these kids coming out of universities. Most of the time, it's American kids that are going to these universities and developing at a rate faster than they ever have been before, Merles, and coming in more NHL ready. So from what we've seen as far as advancement from these 4 kids and what they look like for the American side of things, it just makes me even more excited moving forward for these World Cup of Hockeys, because the league at some point is going to come up with a best on best. We're going to see best on best in the next couple of years, and these American-born players are at the front and center of it all. So I look forward for the race of who wants to peacock out the most when the games and the chips are on the table. And I'm throwing it over to you. What do you got, a stat for us, a little nugget?
Well, yeah, you guys asked for the Kira Schmid Conn Smythe odds, and it's plus 1,600s. Yeah, plus 1,600 for him. Jack Hughes plus 1,700 on the Barstool Sportsbook. Matthew Tkachuk plus 1,800.
The Rangers were quite noticeably maybe one of the slowest teams in the playoffs. Would you guys agree?
Agreed.
Like, so slow. Well, now Carolina's not slow. They're quick, and they play quick. So I don't hate the idea of a big burly defenseman. What was his name for Jersey? Ball.
Oh yeah,
so
I'll
big,
take the L on that one.
Big bruise and but I'm actually gonna say maybe you look to Luke Hughes now with a quicker Carolina team and a little bit better skating.
Well, you better go into witness protection, because I already said that, and Devils fans want me dead. So
I know, but it was a different series, man. It's different.
I agree with you, but after he got in that fight, I think it was in Game 6.
He played great. Played great.
Good shutdown guy, good at clearing out the net front, and that lineup has been doing a good job of keeping pucks out of their net. Keith, we just are wrapping up the Devils Rangers. Was there any final notes? We talked about Gallant keeping his job. He's been pigeon-tossed by Florida. He got pigeon-tossed by Vegas with short stints. Does the message run dry quick with him, and do you think he stays?
I didn't have enough time with him to know really if the message doesn't get through, but the only thing I'd say about that, I didn't notice a lot of changes in their game from game 1 to 7. It just kind of seemed like they were trying the exact same stuff, whether it was breakouts, their neutral zone, forecheck, everything that they did kind of looked like the same they've been doing all year. kind of the only thing I would say might need a little change, especially when you're playing a team that's as fast as Jersey, that can create offense like Jersey. That they needed to do something. Obviously, I'm not a coach. I don't know what that is.
To slow them down in the neutral zone.
Yeah, big time, because they were just getting through with such speed, and then that's just taken away from, the Rangers' time in the offensive zone, which they were good at all year, is holding on to pucks and playing teams down low. That's kind of the only thing I could see on that with them from a coaching aspect. But at the end of the day, it's, if you're the Rangers, you saw this group, especially adding Tarasenko and Kane. You probably saw them at least going to the Eastern Conference Final. So it's got to be tough to be a Rangers fan right now. And obviously, I played for the Rangers. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. So I hate to see them lose to that team. And you sound like a player, but it's on to next year for those guys.
The Fugazi showed up in Game 7.
Hey guys, before we go any further, I want to talk to you about Game Time. Game Time is the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Created by fans for fans, Game Time is the ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. Me and Grinelli have been taking advantage for this a long time now. Playoff games, concerts, whatever you want to go see, use Game Time. It's possible to snag those seats with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. The purchase process takes just 2 taps and 10 seconds. And once you buy your tickets, they're delivered directly to your phone, no printer needed. The app also allows you to easily share tickets with friends via text so you can get to the games seamlessly. Skip the hassle and enjoy the moment. Download the Game Time app or go to the website, enter your email, and redeem code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
I think that's a perfect transition to get into the final series we haven't broken down in Edmonton, LA, where LA knew they were playing against a speedy team like Edmonton. So I think the fact that they've played at that neutral zone the way they play, the 1-3-1 all season long, definitely was a good opponent for them. But they couldn't shut them down on the power play, and that's ultimately was the straw that broke the camel's back. The best power play in a single series of NHL playoffs ever. 56, just over 56%, RA.
Yeah, but we have to start with a particular tweet for this one, though, Biz, from our buddy Ryan Whitney. There it is. Oil won't need to celebrate and be shipping in cases of beer to the locker room. It's just business as usual on to the second round again. Much bigger goals than mine. Bring on Vegas. Hashtag let's go Oilers.
I know that's a shot at the Leafs about celebrating their first round win, and that's just how Witt is, and he's a grumpy fucking gills all the time and can't let other people celebrate that they want to celebrate. Heck, even the New Jersey Devil fan was going at you with a sign for your Jersey comment. So
that proved my point decently, actually, but go ahead.
Yeah, we'll let you take it over because it's your Edmonton Oilers. You got the floor, buddy.
This team. What has everyone questioned about this team for so long? Well, a lot of things.
Bottom six.
It's been a tough goal. The bottom six.
Goaltending,
the bottom
too.
6, goaltending and defense. So every single aspect besides 29 and 97. The bottom 6 showed up in spades, boys.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to talk about a GM who made some deadline moves, we've talked about Ekholm enough. Nick Bjugstad. Keith played with this guy. He loved him too. Bugie. This guy scored big goal. And what happened is you have a power play that is legitimately unstoppable. Like, correct me if I'm wrong here. You mentioned the best percentage in one series in NHL history. That's coming off the best percentage in the history of the NHL during the regular season, where it's not even a power play you can study or replicate, because when you have two guys like that are unlike, who are the 2 best players in the world with McKinnon, those 3, they move around and shake around, and there's no position, and Bouchard's up top, and he lets cannons go. And Bouchard.
That's who I asked McDavid about first question we got with him.
Yeah, I saw what he said. He said, we've always known how good he is, and just with Barry going out, and he's gotten his chance to step into the role, confidence. Confidence
is his
everything.
coming out party.
So we've had the power play. That wasn't a worry. Now we have this bottom 6. We have guys who aren't just like scoring big goals, but they're playing dirty bottom 6 hockey. And Derek Ryan doesn't get enough respect. That's a fourth-line guy, but he's got a brain. He's got the hockey IQ that you need to have to be an undersized guy and play on a bottom six role and understand always being on the defensive side of the puck and never turning the puck over. And that's what he did.
How about the swap out of Puljujarvi for Koskinen?
Dude, this
is a thoroughbred.
Austin Kostin? You see those goals? This guy, first-round pick. I mean, the pedigree's there. And he showed up. Those goals in Game 6. I mean, you get scoring from guys like that. Like, you're getting a well-rounded team offense. No longer is it just these two. By the way, Nuge didn't even have a great series. So watch him explode against Vegas. This is going to be another battle. The Oilers have the toughest run. I mean, Vegas is sick.
Very difficult.
We'll get into that to the preview and how good they are. But, man, you lose Game 3 in a heartbreaker, okay? You lose Game 1 in a heartbreaker. You lose 2 overtime games. And Game 4 comes around. You're down 3 Cobb. What felt like 6 minutes into the game. The old Edmonton Oilers, dude, they're losing that game 7-1. That game's done. Nope. They come back. They tie it up. Then they give up the 4th goal. They actually go down again. I'm like, oh, the comeback, and then they still... Evander Kane, who's playing injured, who's another playoff-type prick. I believe you described Cousins on Florida as a real piece of shit to play against, Biz. What a compliment. Evander Kane's the same way. And he's talking shit. He's in your face. He's nonstop. And that goal to tie up that game was so big. We go on to get the win in that game and then go home and trounce them in Game 5 with a sick effort. And in Game 6, we have to grind it out on the road. We don't even need to go to 7. I said it would be 7. They didn't even need to. And Stuart Skinner, man, for a rookie to show up and play like that, but what happens? There's obviously bumps in every road. And Jack Campbell, we talked about on the episode, him coming in and saving that game when they went down 3-0. It's just a complete team effort. It's a different Oilers. Every guy's doing something. You can't give me that it's Draisaitl and McDavid. It's our whole team. Yeah, dude, they are the 2 best players. They are an enormous part of the team. Without them, they're not in the playoffs. But it's no longer just them 2. And so just to see everything turn around and have the momentum building and have the craziest city in the fucking world for hockey. They're selling out Rexall for away games, or it's now Rogers. They're selling out the arena, dude.
They could probably sell out both.
Yeah, they are.
No shit. And there's how many fans are outside in the mosh pit? It's just, we went to the Western Conference Final. Merle saw it. All you guys saw it. I got to shave your head in front of everyone, Biz. It was the atmosphere, and it's getting crazier. And I finally got to put out the tweet of the video of the boys coming on the ice for home games. It's an electric
insane.
Crowd. And you go back to 06 and like the run to the Cup Finals, Game 7 is like, holy shit, people just want to watch those games to see the crowd. I know that sounds ridiculous. The reactions to goals. So it was a hell of a series. Everyone chipped in. Everyone did their part. And I'm just very fired up that they're continuing to go on with a legit chance to win the Stanley Cup.
So the big 2 were huge early on. You mentioned the lack of offense from the bottom 6. Actually, in the first 3 games of the series, 2 goals, 1 assist for the bottom 6. In the last 3 games in this series, they had 11 points, 5 goals, and 6 assists. So that talks about how much they stepped up when they needed to. 11 points for Draisaitl, 10 for McDavid. They weren't as dominant maybe as last year's first round, where I want to say against LA, they each had fucking like 17 or 18 points. But definitely when they had their opportunities on the power play, and they needed to, because I felt LA, for the better part, were the better team 5-on-5.
They're good.
Like they were a very good team. And when you look back to the last 2 years where LA had very good teams who could have made runs, they just so happened to bump into the Oilers when they had these 2 guys who would put the team on their back and then finally are given these other guys in order to contribute. And you mentioned the goaltending. That gif of him choking it up and then to come back and have the mental strength to fucking lock it in after giving up that pizza.
Well, his stick was broken. That's not fair. I know,
but still, dude, like, I don't know who was the defenseman on the bench, but he was like, hey, fucking shake it off. We got you. Like, buddy, other goal, like Ullmark, it didn't seem like he shook off his fucking blunder from Game 5. So, mental strength.
Also, Biz.
Yeah.
I was hard on Darnell Nurse. Started playing a lot
Big
better
time.
as that series went on. A lot better. Simplified it. That's the key to this episode. It's playoffs, dude. Simplify everything. Stop trying to make crazy plays unless you're one of the best players in the world. Hughes, you want to try something, go ahead. But even if these great players end up not simplifying the game, you don't end up winning. But bottom six forwards, Kailer Yamamoto has had a tough season, right? And he got dropped down in the lineup. And he gets that winner, and the boys were so fired up for him. They love the guy. I think McDavid after goes, the little guy got the big goal. Like, it's just something where you deal with adversity, and you get dropped in the lineup, and you still show up, and you play, and you score the biggest goal of your life, series clincher. And Costin, game 3 or 4, I think game 4 he played 3 minutes, dude. 3 minutes. There's no sulking. There's no whining. There's no woe is me. I got to step up. I got to be better. And he did it. And so it's like guys that are dealing with adversity and bouncing back the way these guys have on Edmonton. Skinner, you just mentioned that. All these, Nurse, it's like that's the sign of a great team. You cannot wither when things aren't going your way. And that's coming from somebody who withered into a little dead flower every time adversity hit him. That's me. No, this is the new Oilers. So I can't wait for this next round.
I was going to ask Keith if he was able to see the talk we had on TNT about how McDavid's able to process the box and process the information so quickly. You were a power play specialist. Maybe break down what you saw from Bouchard at the top and then Draisaitl and McDavid and give maybe fans a deeper dive into why it's so electric.
I think with Bouchard, he's figured out, I think when Barry first got traded, he was trying to shoot it a little too much on the top of that power play when you got to realize when you're that top guy, your best option is to give it to McDavid or give it to Draisaitl. But now he's figured out when to shoot it, and he shoots it when he's open, and he's got an absolute cannon. So very excited for him. He stepped up his game so much, and a guy, I'm sure he was feeling the heat a little bit earlier in the year, being a high pick.
He's playing bad too.
Yeah, so it's to see what he's done, and then I think too going back to McDavid and Draisaitl, and not having 17, 18 points in a series. I think they've finally figured out that, okay, if we take care of other things in our own end, in the neutral zone, getting pucks deep, not trying to beat guys one-on-one, whatever the case is. I mean, they can still do that, obviously, but they've got that winning mentality right now, which you saw from a guy like Nate Dogg in Colorado, where in the years before, he's just full board trying to go offense. But I think Draisaitl and McDavid have figured out that they need to play in all three zones. They'll play their 25 minutes a night. They'll dominate no matter what they're doing. The power play is just, it's something special. Like 56% clip.
You ever seen a team penetrate the box like that or what?
No, and the thing is with McDavid, because especially this year, he's brought that aspect of his game where he's a threat to shoot, and he can score from anywhere. He's shown that this year with his shot. So you have to respect his shot and also his passing ability, which there's not too many guys that are dual threat like he is. So when he's penetrating that box, because obviously they have, they could play 4-on-4 and he'd still dominate that way. But when he has an extra guy out there, it's something special, and it's something I've never seen on the power play, where he can just kind of do whatever he wants, wherever he gets the puck. He can start with the puck in the corner, come all the way up, dance through the middle. And you also, too, when you're playing against a guy of his caliber, you do get a little bit puck watching because you know how good he is. So he's created all that space for himself on the power play, and just the absolute specimen of what he's doing out there.
Well, I was going to flip it over to LA, and we got to give a double barrel to Adrian Kempe. And I know I saw a bunch of tweets coming out of your account, and I would love to get Merle's feeling on that. But what were you going to say right before?
I was going to say that Jay Woodcroft is quietly putting together maybe the best resume to start a career as a head coach in the history of the league. I don't know. I don't have the stats to back that up. But ever since he's gotten there, this team's been unreal. So he's obviously pushing the right buttons. And when you talk about guys who are coming back from adversity and getting sat down and getting dropped in lineups, for them to come back and play that well, that has something to do with the coach in my mind. The way he's talking to you, the way he's telling you, listen, right now it's not good enough. We're going to need you.
he's obviously doing something that has created not only like a winning atmosphere there, but an attitude where guys are able to get sat down and get pee-pee whacked and bounce back and play that well. So Woodcroft's right there too in terms of top coach in the league.
Yeah, as far as Adrian Kempe, Biz, you know, he played over in Moto where the Wit was, so he got to grow up.
Moto's back, baby.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. They're back in the SHL, but he got to grow up watching the great Ryan Whitney there for 2 games. Yep. But he's awesome. He flies. He knows how to score. I really like watching him. He's a top end player. I just got to touch on the Oil because I said in the preview I wasn't too sure about the goaltending, and Skinner, he looks like he can do the job. He can bring him there. And I got a little nugget for you, Whit. Kentucky Derby on Saturday.
Is there a horse named Skinner?
There's a horse named Skinner, so could be his year. If the horse wins on Saturday, then we know it's really could be the Oilers' year. So let's go Skinner.
I would say overall, though, like LA, they look good. They had players Arvidsson looked great. I thought that Korpisalo maybe...
He didn't look great at the end.
He faltered towards the end. I think he was just maybe fatigued, rattled. There were a lot of cases where he almost looked like early days Jonathan Quick, but maybe didn't get enough of the box outs and the block shots where he played really low. We also got into that with Hank in that breakdown, and he mentioned, or I did, on the Yamamoto goal. Like, as he spun around, there was a little bit of net front traffic, but it's not like he roofed that top cheese underneath the bar. I just felt like there was so much space up top that they were able to expose. I mean, you even saw it on those power play McDavid goals where he went glove side when he scored 2 goals that one game on the power play. That was the Doughty chaos with Draisaitl when power plays were going back and forth. But they really exposed the top of the net with a lot of their shooting, where I felt like he was, I don't know, either fatigued by the end of it or just couldn't find a way to stop shots up top. And then maybe it was derived from goalie scouting and just where they were putting it early on, where they couldn't figure him out. But I went from after 3 games saying Korpisalo was probably the best goalie in all of playoffs to saying that, he got yanked once and then didn't really look like himself.
Yeah, you got to wonder, Biz, if they're going to try to re-sign him. I know he only made like $1.3 million last year. He looked like gangbusters early. He ended up 2-4, 8.92 save percentage, 3.77 goals against. I know you're probably going to take a look at some other goalies on the market maybe before going to him. But LA's turnaround's been pretty good, though. Kind of rebuilding on the fly. Just so rebuild on the fly. They're basically contenders again. But your buddy Jeff Jacobson said, whereas Edmonton is to LA as Tampa was to Toronto. Like they're going to be this hump that they need to get over to get back to the finals. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, Edmonton ain't going anywhere.
Hey, maybe not a bad tie-in goaltending wise in terms of LA. Will they re-sign him or not to another goaltender in Canada, possibly wanting out in Connor Hellebuck in that series? And you know what? Before I throw it over to RA, there's not much to be said about the on ice. Just an amazing display of hockey by Vegas. They dominated. It's more about what happened after that series, I'd say.
Yeah, no doubt. The only series that didn't reach 6 games. I mean, Jets rolled them game 1, and then Vegas just blew them out of the building. It's almost like there was a wake-up call at game 1 for Vegas. But like you said, it was afterwards. Rick Bowness, very candid in his post-game comments. G, why don't you roll those?
Overall thoughts on that one? Overall thoughts? I'm so disappointed and disgusted right now. That's my thoughts.
Where does the disgust come from?
Pardon me?
Where does the disgust come from?
No pushback. But it's the same crap we saw in February. It was. That's why so as soon as we were challenging for first place and teams were coming after us, we had no pushback. This series, we had no pushback. Their better players were so much better than ours, it's not even close.
Feels like you've been holding these feelings on for a bit. Is it just out of tonight's game or finally wanting to release that?
It started back in January and February.
What is it about this team's leadership core or the top end players? We got
to push back. There's got to be a pushback. There's got to be pride. You got to be able to push back when things aren't going your way. We had no pushback. Their better players were so much better than ours tonight. They deserved to win. They were the better team in the regular season. They were the better team in this series. Anything else? Good. Thanks.
My thing on that is I don't remember. One time I remember, and it was the AHL with Michel Therrien. Other than that, when a season ends, it's never usually like that. The coach comes out, listen, we got to play, things like that, but it's almost like, all right, that'll be left for the player meetings, that'll be left for the exit interviews. I talk to the team, and when a season's over, it's not usually like cutthroat. He came out in a 56-second clip, whatever it was, guns a-blazing. And I was taken aback. And when he said, yeah, since January, February, right when we got first and teams started pushing back, we had nothing. We had no pushback. We gave in. And just like to speak openly about the disdain, and that's straight up disdain for that team. Like, he was disgusted to the point.
That was half-baked. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool, fuck you, I'm out. That was one of those ones.
Hellebuck was cool. So it was just, and I don't know, Keith, what's your opinion on, like, right when the season ends in terms of a coach just, like, shriveling the entire squad?
Yeah, like you said, you never see that. It's usually behind closed doors, and I got nothing but respect for Rick Bowness. Met him a few times. Unbelievable guy. Guys love him. He's been around forever. I do like what Blake Wheeler did. I'd like that he came back and that he stuck up for his teammates. And Wheels was a guy that, got the C taken away from him this year. He could have maybe not said anything, but he's a guy who lived by the sword, died by the sword, had his things to say. I don't disagree with him at all on that. It obviously could have not got to that point if they just handled it behind closed doors.
Do you think Bowness's comments were fair in saying that they didn't have a push, or were you just more of like, listen, they were thin on D, they lost their best defenseman, and maybe there was a lot of weight on the top six guys to produce, because they did have Ehlers out for a little bit there. So like, what did you see as the problem for them, or did you see a push?
No, honestly, I didn't see a push. And even during the season, he is right. He's 100% right. During the season, when they were struggling a little bit, when teams were coming at them, knowing that they were for real, they didn't push back, I would say. But it's, I don't think that's what Wheels was mad about. I'm sure he knows that it wasn't their best effort. But it's just one of those things that I think probably could have been handled behind closed doors, whether they did or not. But it also goes to show you the passion that Bones has for the game, his team, wanting to win, being disappointed in the loss. I'm sure he's not happy with himself. Like it's not just him. It's not just the team, right? Everyone's part of the same thing, whether the coaching staff or the players. Everyone's a part of the same goal at the end of the year. But honestly, if they didn't have Connor Hellebuck all year, we wouldn't be talking about them right now in the playoffs. He's unbelievable. He's played unbelievable since he got into the league. You just don't know how to take that as a player. It's kind of, do I think he's going to lose guys because of that? I don't think so, because he's such a good guy, and they'll patch things up, I would imagine, in these next couple days and once the dust settles a little bit. But it's it is definitely one of those things where you kind of scratch your head, where you're like, okay, they could have handled it behind closed doors. We would have never heard about it, and on to next year.
It feels like it might be rebuild time there. Where if
I was going to say the same thing. It feels like it could be ugly for a little while.
Hellebuck said he's not interested in a rebuild, but with maybe the direction of Scheifele and maybe getting rid of him.
Dubois wants out. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's pretty clear he wants to play for Montreal.
I think the writing's on the wall that he's going to go to Montreal, and with him being restricted, I want to say, he's in the last year of restricted free agency. I feel like they could at least get a decent return. People keep throwing the name Kirby Dach out there. I think that with his cap hit and the way that he showed growth this year, from my understanding, is there's no way that Montreal's parting with Kirby Dach at his tag, given what they're probably going to have to pay Dubois. But to have Suzuki and Dubois as your first two centers as Montreal, all of a sudden you start looking dangerous with the pedigree they have of their young guys. So I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. Should be interesting to see what happens with this Winnipeg organization, but all credit goes to Vegas and the way they adjusted. Their D were way more involved. Their forecheck was 10 times better than it was in game one. And I feel like their speed through the middle of the ice, and one of the more underrated players in the league, and Chandler Stevenson, between him, Jack Eichel, and some of the other stars they have on this team, they are going to give, I believe, Edmonton just as many problems as LA did. But here's a nugget for you. I believe Vegas is the least penalized team in the league. Correct me if I'm wrong. G, help me out here. So they're going to be going against a very disciplined team who didn't take penalties like LA. And they also, like LA, have some very smart defensive forwards who can shut guys down. Mark Stone being a Selke winner, who can also put the puck in the back of the net. So great matchups here coming up. And I feel like, is that pretty much it, boys? What else you guys got to
two amazing buildings. That both of those atmospheres are going to be insane.
Insane.
No, not quite done yet, Biz. We still got kind of glossed over the Isles Canes. We got to get to them, but a couple more notes on Winnipeg. Hellebuck said he's not interested in a rebuild. I just want to compete. I enjoyed myself more in 5 playoff games than I did all year. It's like a high you got to chase. You can't replicate that anywhere else except in the playoffs. He has 1 more year on this current deal, then he'll be a UFA. And another thing, excuse me, Bonus mentioned no pushback in his quote. Well, I don't know if you saw it today. The Jets sent out an email that a lot of people felt undermined Rick Bonus, and it said in the email the Jets had plenty of pushback against Vegas in round 1, and then it kind of made a bunch of excuses or reasons why they did. It's just kind of odd, to take his word and use that almost against them in a weird way. So he is coming back next year, though. So we'll see what happens.
Organizations turn into an episode of the Kardashians. Yands will be tuning in. 16 and pregnant shit going on, all the drama in Winnipeg. Hey, so I actually, going back to the Vegas comment, yes, I was actually texting with that Gary Lawless, and he said a little nugget for you. So it's going to be a different look for Edmonton going to this round with the least penalized team in the NHL this season, the Vegas Golden Knights. Just keep that in mind, Whit, before you start fucking celebrating and playing on the parade.
Yeah, penalties are death wish against that team.
Is Vegas the least penalized team?
Just hopefully they'll be calm as cucumbers out there.
You just make sure to have my 500 cent when the Leafs fucking spank the Cats.
No. In terms of Carolina Islanders, I mean, the Islanders talk about zero offensive punch.
We actually have to talk about them right now.
I know. I mean,
fair is fair. I mean,
PP was 5%. That should mean that we what is that?
That's like Merle's blood alcohol on a road trip.
Insane. Against that, the way that Carolina kills, you can't just hold on to the puck for 5-10 seconds. You have to move it around, get them tired. They were just trying the same stuff, trying to wheel around.
The most stagnant power play and just dusting off every puck. There was no quick movement. It was like, oh, I got it. Let's stick handle twice and then telegraph my pass over to my D partner. Okay, here it comes. Oh, shocker, that guy's breathing down your neck and is in your shot lane and you can't make a play and get it there. Oh, okay, let's move it down to Barzell. Okay, back the other way. And then on top of that, there's zone entries. I mean, finally at one point, they did the zone entry where they kicked it out to the wall and then got some time and space. But for the whole series, they were just leaving Barzell to go in by himself. All 4 other guys are standing flat-footed at the line. He would skate into traffic. They'd go stick on puck, clear it down. And in a few cases, ended up scoring shorthanded goals because of it. Just a And what was the one goal they scored on the power play? D-to-D, shot through, Palmieri tip. It was a game winner in the 3rd period of Game 3, and that was the only power play goal they scored the entire fucking series. To the point where they ended up having a closed-door practice to practice the power play before Game 6. And what do you know? Shooting blanks again.
Yeah, you know that 5
for Bedard.
That 5-on-0 power play practice always works well. I always thought it was hilarious.
Sticks turned over.
You're on a team and you're like, all right, let's practice the power play with no killers.
Get the dummies out there.
This is awesome. Butchie Goring was out killing penalties in practice.
I mean, we just mentioned Winnipeg at a possible crossroads. You got to think the same for the Islanders, possibly, Biz. They kind of backslid since the Eastern Conference Finals, back-to-back appearances. 11 players on that team, 30 years or older. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the future's going to hold for that squad.
Look at the moves. Devon Taves, 2 second-rounders, ouch. He looks like a poor man's Makar now, the way that he can move and provide offense. I mean, I just try not to be too critical, though, on Borhorvat didn't do great when he came over. It's like the Eberle comments. Like, you get to a new city, you can't get adjusted. Like, let's wait to see what he can do the next couple of years. But if it's anything like we saw down the stretch and in playoffs, they're in trouble with handing over 8 to him. So as far as rebuild time, I think it might be time in a new direction where you got to remember, man, I feel like Trotz wanted to stay there and wanted to move into management, and I believe that they moved on from him because I don't think Lou is going to be willing to give up the job. So I don't know how much longer Lou lasts if these are the types of moves he's making while sipping margaritas on his yacht come summertime, not making deals.
For Carolina, my thing is like, they just keep doing it. They got their top 3 forwards out, or no, 3 of their top 4, because Aho's still playing. Thank God for them. And they're still winning series. How many years in a row have the Hurricanes advanced in the playoffs? I mean,
I think I saw Rod set a record for advancing every year his first 5 years or 6 years coaching or something crazy like that.
Only the second head coach to win a series in each of his first 5 seasons with the same team. He joins Tobe Lake. Ever heard of him? So it's pretty lofty company for Hot Rod there.
And Game 6, they changed to Anderson instead of Ranta because he was healthy. And they did it in Game 6, not Game 7. So great call by him. Ranta had not started more than 5 straight games all season long. And I want to say he only played about 30 regular season games. So once Anderson was healthy and ready to go, he went to the fresh guy. Great call. Only allows 1 goal in that game. And how about the way that the season ends for the Islanders on that turnover by Pelech and a greasy goal from the side, the goal line goal by Paul Stastny. Just embodies how shit the fucking Islanders were and boring to play. No offense.
And that was Freddie's first playoff game in 3 years, Biz, too. And a very impressive stop, 33 of 34 shots. So Carolina marches on, and now we have our quick picks we're going to get to shortly here. We got 4 series. Merles, thanks for sending over those lines. Guys, we're going to spend a minute or less on who you like and why. Merles, we'll go to you first. Edmonton versus Vegas. Edmonton is roughly a 7-8 favorite, which is minus 160 Edmonton, plus 140 Vegas.
Yeah, what's your 1 minute pitch, Merles?
You give me the toughest one. You come out of the gates with the toughest series for me. I've been an Oilers guy. I love going up to Edmonton, but I'm a Vegas guy. I want to get us to Vegas. I got to get us to Vegas. But I want to see 97 play more games. I'm going Edmonton in 7.
Okay, that was definitely less than a minute. Yandle, what do you got on this one?
Well, I know Witt's going to go Edmonton, and I know Biz is going to go Vegas. Merle's just went Edmonton. I'm going to go Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
How many games?
I think no matter what, it's going 7, and if it goes 7, it's probably, I don't know. I'm not built for this.
Jeez, come on, you could do it.
I'll go Vegas. I no reason why. I just think that the way that they dominated the first round, they're going to be feeling good. They got some time to rest. Yeah, Vegas in 7.
Wow. I'm actually going to pick Edmonton.
And sorry, they're the least penalized team.
Oh, no shit, eh?
Great nugget.
Great
nugget.
No way. It's not like that nugget matters against the best power play the world's ever seen. I guess it was a stupid thing for me to bring up. I guess I'm just a moron here.
I think you said it 6 times, but it was a good
log
nugget.
off? Should I log off? Going back to my pick, Vegas. They're going to be a lot to handle. Least penalized team in the regular season. Not going to allow Edmonton to have as many power plays, but I feel like this is going to be the series where Draisaitl and McDavid, the biggest dynamic duo in sports right now, actually the most dynamic duo since Pippen and Jordan. Keith, I've said that a few times on the pod now. I think that they're going to be a different beast. I think that the bottom 6 and all the other guys are going to even themselves out. I think the goaltending's pretty even. I just have a hard time believing with the steam that Edmonton picked up there in that series against LA that anything's going to slow down McDavid from going for his Stanley Cup. I feel like the time is now, and this is more of a coin flip, but I have to go with the busy gut on this one, and I'm actually going to say Edmonton in 6 games.
Wow.
I love Vegas. I love a lot of things about them. I just don't know if McDavid and Draisaitl can be stopped right now, and I feel like there's a lot more gas left in the tank after what we saw in the first round.
I think it's going to be an incredible series. I think these games are going to be unreal, back and forth. McDavid first overall, Eichel second overall. He really found his game. He got in the playoffs. He had the struggle in game 1, and boom, he took off. My man, Bob Stauffer. Everyone knows about the Stauffer.
Yeah.
The most dialed-in man in Edmonton, in the Edmonton area. Witt, they cannot and will not underestimate the Vegas Golden Knights. Brossoit is healthy and far better than when he was in Edmonton. Vegas is strong at center. They have D that can make plays, and they know how to win. Think about this. They finished first in the Western Conference, despite not being top 10 in the NHL in goals for, goals against, power play, PK, shots for, or shots against during the regular season. They're deep up front and good 5-on-5. But I'll tell you right now, nothing's stopping the Oil. Nothing. And I think it's going 7, and I think it's going to be back and forth, and I think it's going to be one of those series where if the most unpenalized team in the regular season is somehow getting off their game and not necessarily taking dumb penalties, but taking penalties because of the speed of Edmonton that you just cannot handle at times, no matter what in the offensive zone, they get buzzing, penalties get called. It's just doesn't matter how good you are discipline-wise, it's speed, and speed kills. And because of that, the Oilers move on in 7. On the road, they win that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're a men on a mission right now. I agree with you guys. I mean, the goaltending, I don't know if it's a washout. Broussard's been great. An awesome story, too. I mean, he got waived early in the year, and he's leading his team well into the playoffs. But I don't know, man. The way Leon and Connor are going, the penalties, if they take any penalties, they're dead. I know they're the least penalized team in the regular season, but yeah, I'm going to stick with Edmonton, and partially because I want to see McDavid in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, I think everybody does. You want to see the best at the highest level, so I'm going to go Edmonton in 6. I'll go, and let's see what Mr. G has, our producer. What do you like, buddy?
I had Edmonton in 7, but that Stauffer text it's got me thinking. It's got my head all messed up, so I hate to say it. I'm gonna go Vegas in 7.
Fuck you, G.
Wow, G.
I'm sorry. It's just, you should have told Stauffer to send you the best text of all time for the Vegas Golden Knights.
He was saying they're a good team and that it's a huge test in store. That's what he was saying.
I just love the defense in Vegas as well.
Yes.
Shea Theodore, Pietrangelo. I mean, it's just you can't beat that.
How about the Ducks getting rid of Shea Theodore, Manson, and Montour? That's crazy. That's tough.
Sick job, Murray.
Who did they keep? They kept someone in the...
They kept Fowler, and then they kept Lindholm for a little bit. Lindholm was there a while.
Where's he been since?
No, in the expansion draft. In the expansion draft, they kept someone over... No, but did they keep Montour over...
when they let Theodore go?
Yeah, they kept someone.
Fuck, I don't know. That's a good question.
Not sure, but we will move along to the next series. New Jersey versus Carolina. Jersey a slight favorite here, even 6, or minus 120. Carolina even money. Merles, what you got, buddy?
Oh, these are all tough, obviously, but God, after listening to Pasha, I was going to go on the Devils, but I don't think I can team up with that guy. He's just too much on the
piece
Devils.
Of shit. He's crippled too right now.
I can't team up with him. We were down in Carolina for the outdoor series. I'm going to show the Carolina fans some love. I'm on the Hurricanes in 7.
Wow, Carolina in 7. KY, what you have for us?
I'm going with the Merman on this one. I'm going Carolina. I actually want Jersey to win because I think it would be an easier matchup for Florida in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think Carolina, just the way that they're coached, their depth, they're obviously missing those big guys on their team hurts them, but they're a type of team that they can get scoring from anyone. They have guys like Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, just guys grinding away out there. So I'm going Carolina. I think that they'll be able to slow them down a little bit, especially the way that Rod the Bod coaches. He'll figure it out, and say Carolina in 6.
One other thing about Edmonton I wanted to mention, though, is I'm going to pick an X factor in the series for each of these series. And going back to Darnell Nurse, he's my X factor for the Oilers. He was not good in the first 4 or 5 games of that LA series. If they have any chance of beating the Golden Knights, given the fact that not only do the Golden Knights have those 2 awesome shot blockers on the left side defense in Martinez and McNabb, they have the offensive prowess of Theodore and Pietrangelo. Bouchard can't be on an island by himself. He needs a couple other defensemen other than just Ekholm and Bouchard doing it. They need their 3 big dogs making the money on the back end, getting it done. So Darnell Nurse, my X factor. Going on to New Jersey and Carolina, I love Carolina. I love the way they play as a 5-man unit. They pressure all over the ice. They have a great 1-2 tandem. Burns and Slavin are like the best shutdown pairing in the league overall, in my assumption. Maybe not analytically, but so far in these playoffs, they've looked like it, with Burns also providing offense. But given due to the injuries up top for Carolina, I just see no way that they can outscore New Jersey, especially knowing that at a certain point, Bratt's going to show up, Palat's going to show up, Timo Meyer's going to show up, and I think there's a few other guys on that lineup who can also contribute offensively for the Devils that didn't show up in the first round. I actually think they're going to fucking pop off this round, and I actually got the Devils winning in 6 games.
I'm with you. I thought you were going to end up taking the Hurricanes, and God knows my takes aren't exactly money, but I think what I just saw from the Devils and the lack of depth for Carolina and the lack of scoring and a team that can match their speed, I think the Devils win in 5 games. I think the Devils are going to fucking trounce them.
I think they're going to trounce them too.
And that's no disrespect at all to Carolina, but what I just saw and the speed that they play at and the fact that Hischier, Bratt, and Meyer didn't have a goal, I think the Devils are going to truck them.
G, what do you got for us, buddy?
I am riding Schmiedo the Torpedo, and I got Devils in 7.
Yeah, I mean, they just beat Shesterkin, man. One of the best goalies in the league. Schmid, this kid's playing out of his mind right now. And, I'm not sure that the goaltender of Carolina is going to be able to match that. And I think the loss of, Teravainen, Aho, and what's his name?
Svechnikov.
Aho's playing.
I always get him confused.
Aho's playing.
Yeah, because I can't say Svechnikov. I won't even try that. But either way, that's going to catch up with him, those losses. And, yeah, Jersey at 6, man. Just like I said, the fact they beat Shesterkin, this kid Schmidt, he's kind of got that Cam Ward, Ken Dryden flavor going right now. So I'm going Jersey at 6.
Here's my X factor for this series. If Sebastian Aho can go to superstardom level, even though in the first round he was incredible, especially that tying goal he scored in Game 6, grabbing out of midair and then bat-hatting it in, if they have a snowball chance in hell of beating the New Jersey Devils, he is going to have to pop off to the likes we've never seen and go nuclear on them. So he is my X factor if the Carolina Hurricanes are able to pull this off. There's the weight of the world on his shoulders right now offensively.
No pressure. Next up, Dallas and Seattle. Dallas is 8.5-2 or minus 200. Seattle 100 to make 170. Mr. Merles in Sweden, what do you have for us, my friend?
I'm on the Otter train. I love Ottinger. I love Dallas. They have so much team speed. Heiskin in the back end can play 30, 35 minutes like our boy Yands here without breaking a sweat. And I know I'm betting against Seattle again, but I got Dallas. I'm going Dallas in 5. They're going to make quick work of them.
Wow. Dallas in 5. Mr. Yandle, what do you have for us?
Dallas in 4.
Oh my God! No respect to Seattle.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I haven't had any respect for them all year, which I probably should by now. But I don't see it. I think they beat up a team that was vulnerable in Colorado, and they were hurt. Obviously, losing Makar for a game. Hopefully, Jared McCann can come back, especially after taking a nasty hit like that, and after the great year that he had. But the way the Ottinger is playing, I don't see it. I don't see them scoring many goals on him. I mean, I know we mentioned the depth that they have and having contributions throughout their lineup, but I don't see them solving Ottinger. So, and you said Pavelski's back. That's a huge thing for me. That had me worried for a little bit, but with him being back, just being, even if he plays a little bit lesser of a role, it just having him on the ice on the power play is going to be huge for them. And yeah, like I said, Dallas in 4.
All right. What do you got for us, busy boy?
I think that the one thing that, with the lack of depth that Colorado wasn't able to do, was pound Seattle down. And I think that Dallas is built different because they have the ace in net. They have that ace on the back end. They got the superstars up front, but they also have guys like Hakanpää. They got the Mason Marchments. They have Jamie Benn. Even Max Domi, to some regard, can add that chippiness.
Marchment.
I just said that. I don't know if you were paying attention. And also Vegas, least penalized team in the National Hockey League all season long. But going back to what I was saying before I was interrupted here, They just have that physical element along with all those other intangibles that I don't think that Seattle saw in that first round series against Colorado, because they were missing the Landeskog's, the Nichushkins, and the bigger bodies like the Kadri, how much that missed, the Manson. Those type players are in Dallas's lineup right now. So I'm gonna say my X factor going into this is Mason Marchment, and I have the Dallas Stars winning this series in 6 games.
What about Marchment?
He's playing.
He's playing. He ain't playing. He's suspended.
He's actually Biz's X factor.
Don't be fucking mad because I fucking thought of something new coming in with the X factors for round 2. I like to spice it up.
15 extra minutes to the show.
Oh yeah, fuck you. For what? For saying one X factor each team? All right, what
Biz,
the hell?
Don't be so sensitive, Biz. Don't be so sensitive. I just said it was your X factor. I didn't even chirp you, and you went banana lands.
Who's your X factor?
I was gonna say Dallas in 5, but I'll show Seattle a little respect, and I think they get it to 6. But yeah, too much. Like, that is such an emotional win. It took so much out of them, I'm sure, to get that. You beat the Cup champs, 7 games. It's just this unreal run, and I think now you're running into just an overall better team with their depth and goalie, and so Dallas in 6.
G, what we got?
I have Dallas in 7. I think Seattle plays him tough. I think Seattle takes him the distance, but I'm a smart enough man to not bet against Jake Ottinger the way he's playing right now, so Dallas in 7.
Yeah, Otter's going to be too much. I think Dallas just got a little bit more depth, but, Seattle's got that vibe going right now. They're going to steal a couple games, but I have Dallas in 6 myself.
Seattle fans, you should be very happy. We all
absolutely
picked against you.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. Seriously, go bet the mortgage on fucking Seattle. The last one, Biz's Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Florida Panthers. Toronto, let's see, they're 8-9, which is about 180 to make 100 or 100 to make 160 on Florida. Merles, what you got?
Yeah, this is another coin toss. I flip-flopped after talking to you guys on this podcast. I'm a Leafs guy. I like the Leafs. I love Toronto. I want to get to Toronto. But I started thinking about their D-core and how hard Florida pressed on the Bruins D-core. Bruins D-core is much better at moving the puck than the Leafs, and they couldn't do it. So I'm going Carolina Panthers. Jesus, I got to get some sleep. Florida Panthers, 7:30 a.m. here, by the way. Florida Panthers in 7.
Florida in 7. KY, what do you got?
Yeah, I think we all know where I'm going with this one, Biz?
Meow. That was a pretty good imitation of the goal.
Oh, he's got the best one, him and Ace.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going Cats. Obviously, I would love to see Toronto move on. I hate to see it. It has to be against my Cats, and I can't root for them. But I just think the way that they played in the first round, the confidence that they have after beating the best team in the history of the game. In my X factor is Barkov. He didn't play the way that he can play in the first series, and I know the way he is. He's going to be back in the lab yesterday, working on his game, getting ready. So he'll have a bigger series, and you can't expect much drop off from a gamer like Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart. Those guys, you can't count them out. Or even say it was a fluke of what they did in the first series, because I think that those guys are built for playoffs. So I'm going Cats in 7. It's going to be a great series, I think. Obviously with the high end skill on both ends, a lot of fun hockey to be watched for sure.
I got my X factor is the state of Florida not allowing Canadian citizens to buy tickets to the game.
How good is that?
Pretty powerful play right there. I mean, I didn't even know that's legal, but they pulled off the ability, and we all know, I mean, that could have been 50% Leafs fans. It might be cheaper for them to fly down to Lickerdale, buy a ticket to that game than go to a Leafs game, but I think it's going the distance. I just think the weight of getting by that first round and just somehow finally playing loose as a team, and what Biz mentioned in terms of run and gun and Florida being willing to open it up, I think it's going 7, but I think the Leafs get the win at home in Game 7. I'm on Toronto.
Well, Trudeau's going to block any Florida Panthers fans coming into the Toronto rink with having to get a booster shot for the new variant, the Kodak Black variant.
No one from Florida is going up there.
They're going to have to spend 3 days at Pearson getting 2 Kodak Blackberry and booster shots. That's where the golden bars went when he showed up. That's where they disappeared. I think that the Leafs are going to adjust from the mistakes they were making in the first series, especially knowing that Florida has this vicious attack on the forecheck. They're going to be able to break through that. The run and gun more so from Florida is going to benefit Toronto. We're going to see the core 4 activate like the fucking Power Rangers do when they go up against whatever the fuck they fight in those silly shows. And the last thing I'll say is my X factor, because Matthew Tkachuk and the big bad Panthers like to try to bully teams around, is going to have to be the likes of Luke Shen. And I just have this weird feeling that he's going to come up and pull a rabbit out of his ass offensively, where he's going to get a couple squeakers. He's going to have a big moment in the series that's going to throw it all off and help the Toronto Maple Leafs win it. And I believe that they're going to do so in 7 games. It's not going to be easy. This is going to be a full-fledged war. Dubas has prepared them for it. They're ready to go. Core 4 assemble. The factor's going to be there. Let's go, boys in blue. Go Leafs. Go Leafs, go, baby.
Mr. G, what you got?
I think I have a gentleman sweep. I have Toronto in 5. I think this is light work for Toronto. I think, like we said before, Toronto didn't play their best series last series. I think Marner, Matthews, all the big dogs, like Biz just said, the core four, I think they come to play. And I think this is a very, very easy series for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Jesus Christ. I don't know, man. I think Florida has a distinct coaching advantage with Paul Maurice. He's been around forever. Keith's been around for a little bit, but not quite as long. And I don't know, after what I just saw what Florida did to my squad, plus I got a fucking future on them too. My last future 40-1. I'm going Florida in 7. Why not? I'm not going to root for the fucking Leafs.
Does that shock you, Keith? He's got a future on him?
Yeah.
My last
Only one left.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, the rest of them lost in the first round.
Who did you take?
Oh, we'll talk about it later.
Anaheim.
Boston, L.A., Winnipeg, Islanders, and I think that is it. Yeah, whatever. What are you going to do? All right, that wraps up the series. We're going to wrap up very shortly, but there was some big news out of Calgary today. The Flames fired head coach Darryl Sutter. Don Maloney, the president of Hockey Ops, the interim GM, said, "It became clear to me we needed a new voice. Unless you have winning, changes are made." And he said he interviewed 25 players, assistant coaches, and agents of prominent free agents to arrive at the decision. So, I don't know. It seems like a clusterfuck, Paul, to do it after they let Tree Living left. I don't know. What are they doing up there, man?
Don't ask me. I don't fucking know. Harvey the Hound must be on vacation. I haven't been getting any of the inside scoops from what's happened. But you said it. Like the fact that they let Tree go because it seemed like it was one or the other, given the headaches that he had to deal with all season long, where he's like, fuck this. I don't think players should be treated like this from a day-to-day basis. Yands, you might have more to say because you're closer with Huberdeau than I am without throwing him under the bus, but I believe his agent already did that to a certain degree. Yeah, it was time to move on, but for Sutter, it's bag secured. Chestnut checkers. His deal hasn't even kicked in yet. 2 years at $4 million a year. He gets to go back to the farm. It's like Robin Hood. Stealing from the rich.
Tractors, Biz.
Couple new John Deeres.
He's gonna have the baddest tractor in fucking Alberta.
How much hay can you roll and sell and for that? How many?
What kind of hay?
How many
talking?
Potatoes? How many? Yeah, exactly. All right.
Exhibit's gonna make him a John Deere with the rims and my rides
and a fish tank in there.
Yeah.
The fact that we just talked about this for 2-3 minutes and you guys didn't bring up the biggest storyline. I hadn't seen Don Maloney in quite a while. The hair dye job he's got going right now.
He was my GM.
That is the most incredible. He looks like Eminem did back when he had the white. That is the biggest storyline, maybe in the NHL right now, is Don Maloney's hair dye job, looking like that. So
at least he still got it. I mean,
he looks great. He looks like he's
phenomenal.
Looks like he's 30 years old with that hair dye job. So yeah, smell you later, Darryl. And honestly, the biggest thing was, I think after talking to every player was like, I basically dreaded going to work every day. Like, this guy made it so miserable and so uncomfortable for us that I don't really want to play for him anymore. And the fact that Hubie's deal hasn't even kicked in, he just had the worst year of his career. that's something where it's like, all right, we're giving this guy's got $90 million coming to him. Like, we got to do something.
I heard they did it Survivor style in the locker room where they put out his torch. Like they read all the cards out of the box. And
Darryl would have burned them all alive if that was the case.
Yeah,
if that was a 1-on-20 battle, like Darryl's walking out of that with a couple stitches and a pitchfork.
What was the necklace they would get? The veto necklace?
Oh, the immunity.
No, yeah. He didn't have the immunity chain. Tree Living took it on the way out.
The final note, Snoop Dogg has joined businessman Nico Sparks' bid to buy the Senators. So Snoop could be possibly
not a chance. Okay. Ryan Reynolds' team's going to get it, and they're going to develop the entire area downtown, and he's going to make another fucking $1 billion. There's no way with the bid that's already at $1 billion for the Ottawa Senators and the PR that Ryan Reynolds could drive to that team, along with the fact that he's with a bunch of developers. They're going to develop a new rink downtown. They're not going to be in the rink in Canada where they are for much longer. It's not sustainable. They need to get the party district going back in Ottawa and the way it belongs. And I think that Ryan Reynolds is getting it with that crew, and then it's all of a sudden going to pop off. A heavy tag to pay for the Ottawa Senators, but with a development play like most of these owners are going for. Coyotes owner's doing it. Who's Vancouver's owner?
Aquilini.
That's the reason he bought the team at the price that he did when he did it. They developed all the area around it. That's where the money's at. The Dallas owner, didn't he develop that whole LA lifestyle thing in Dallas as well?
I'm not sure if he did or didn't, but either way, Biz does not think Snoop will be a part owner. And one last thing on the ticket thing, Whit, the secondary market is not affected by that. So if you are from Toronto and you want to get tickets, you should not have a problem getting them on the secondary market.
Biz, who would you rather have as an owner, Snoop?
Who would I rather have as an owner?
Yeah, Snoop or Ryan Reynolds.
I would, no offense to Snoop. I love Snoop, but I think that the play is Ryan Reynolds through and through. Not even 100%. And I'm Canadian, so I'm biased. What about you?
Snoop all day.
Snoop and Loop.
All right, boys. Any final thoughts you want to share before we wrap this long episode up?
Yands and Merles for hopping on. And
I was a little quick on all my predictions, but me and Army will be on Game Notes Daily tomorrow at 12 Eastern. We'll get all Army's picks. We'll dig into the series a little more, give you a little more feedback on that. And I'm sure these guys, since their teams are in it, still are going to pop throughout the week and in the next 2 weeks. So thanks for having me.
Let's go Oilers.
Let's go boys in blue. Let's go boys in blue.
Meow. All right, everybody, have a great week.